Chapter 1559. However, Higashio Motetsu did not walk around like he said, but stood on the roof of a house not far from where Chu Qingyan and the rest were, looking at them from afar. Tao Tao stood beside him with her arms crossed, looking puzzled. Since you want to see her so much, why don't you go with Water Spirit and the rest? Higashio Motetsu smiled. The flirtatious look in his eyes faded. Is it that important whether I see her or not? I miss her at first sight, Tao Tao said without hesitation. Hearing that, he couldn't help but look at her. From what you're saying, I can't tell that you're saying this to your sweetheart. Tao Tao snorted lightly. What? You want me to be jealous? After so many years, if I were to be jealous, the surrounding 100 miles would be filled with the smell of my jealousy. I'm not stupid, after all. It's first come first serve. You miss her, you like her. That's something I can't control. If I were to be calculative, I would have long been angered to death by you. He felt that her nonsense was quite reasonable, and reached out his hand to pat her head. You're a promising child. But let me give you a word of advice. I'm a prodigal son. I won't stay for anyone. So benefactor, it's better for you to repent as soon as possible. After saying that, he confidently turned around, and stepped onto another roof. It seemed slow, but he had already walked far away. Tao Tao looked at his gradually disappearing back view and sighed faintly. How could she not care that he still liked Chu Qingyan? Every time he said Chu Qingyan's name, her heart would ache. Actually, it wasn't that she didn't want to say it, it was that she didn't care. Sometimes, even if she didn't say it, her heart would care the most. But what could she do? First come first serve. She could only say that she appeared too late, and didn't manage to grab hold of his heart earlier. But she wouldn't tell him this. Because he wasn't hers yet, and she hadn't won his heart yet, she was already interfering with his life. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't like it. Therefore, she could only swallow the bitterness of the chase alone. And no one could talk to. This was the path she had chosen. No matter how difficult it was, she could only endure it herself. Just as she was in a daze, the purple figure in front of her suddenly stopped and turned to look at her with a frown. Hey, clingy bug, why are you standing there like a fool? Hurry up and catch up. The disappointment in her heart just now dissipated because of his words. She pursed her lips and smiled provocatively. Where are you going? In love, there were times like this. She would cry because of his words, as if she had been abandoned by the whole world, but she would also be overjoyed because of his words, as if she had obtained the whole world. In love, the person who loves deeply will always love more humbly. Even the proud little magic doctor Tao Tao, who had been spoiled since she was a child, couldn't avoid it. Higashio Motetsu raised his eyebrows. Didn't you say that there's a flower field in front that you want to take a look? If you continue to be so slow, don't blame me for leaving first. Tao Tao's eyes lit up, and she flew up. Don't go, wait for me. Higashio Motetsu pursed his lips. So slow. But he still waited for her to get close before continuing forward. The two figures' clothes fluttered as they walked further and further away. I've been poor for so many years, and all I ask is that you're willing to wait for me when you leave. Dripping water can penetrate a stone, and an iron rod can be ground into a needle. Mountain rocks aren't heartless, and iron rods aren't invincible. Everything is in the silence of time. Sichuan Imperial Palace. The new emperor who had just ascended the throne a few days ago sat in the imperial garden, with his beautiful empress. Pang Zhijing looked at the phoenix robe she was wearing and cupped her face in disbelief. Xiao, even in my dreams, I would never have thought that I would become the empress of a country one day. Xiao raised his hand and placed it on her cheek. His thumb brushed the corner of her mouth, removing the crumbs that had accidentally gotten on her while she was eating. However, he didn't take his hand back. He touched her face. It was smooth and delicate, like a peeled egg. He couldn't bear to part with it. And Pang Zhijing seemed to be used to him touching and pinching. But being used to it was one thing, and blushing was another. She gave a low cough, like she was reminding him of his earlier question. Xiao had long seen her every move. Seeing this, the corners of his mouth curled up. His other hand circled around her waist and forcefully lifted her up. After a moment of dizziness, she was already sitting in his arms. Pang Zhijing's face turned as red as a tomato. She grabbed his sleeve and protested in a low voice. Hey, in any case, you're the ruler of a country, and I'm also the empress of a country. We can't hug each other in public. Where's the propriety? Can't you see that everyone else is watching? Pay attention to your image, hey. Xiao seemed to have only heard the latter half of her words, or purposely ignored the first half. He pulled her into his arms. Look around. Peng Zhijing was angry. This person was too much. He didn't listen when she said he would. He was talking, but he was so close. His hot breath was by her ear, it was so itchy. If Xiao knew that his empress was so lacking in emotion, he would probably teach her himself. Even though she thought that, she still turned to look around. Where was everyone? Wasn't he still here just now? Why did it feel like there was only her and the shameless person left in this garden? She searched for a long time. When she turned around to ask him, before she could speak, he blocked all her words. Originally, he wanted to kiss her until she had no energy left so that she wouldn't have to worry about this and that because of their status. But Xiao still couldn't bear it. She might look like a little tiger, but he knew that she was very shy outside. After a light kiss, Xiao finally let go of her. Peng Zhijing glared at him while panting. However, her cheeks were rosy and her beauty was unparalleled. This made Xiao's heart itch and he kissed her again. In the end, Peng Zhijing couldn't help but cover her mouth. She looked at him proudly. Let's see how he's going to sneak attack her now. Xiao found it funny that she would always do such childish things. She was simply a clown. The self-satisfied Peng Zhijing didn't stay happy for long. She stared with wide eyes as that handsome face came closer and closer. Then the back of her hand became wet and warm. After he moved back, she finally realized that her face had become hot. As expected, ginger was the spiciest when it was shameless. You bad silver, always bullying me. Peng Zhijing covered her mouth with one hand and pointed at him with the other. Her face was red as she complained. However, this kind of feast for the eyes didn't have any deterrence. Instead, it made Xiao want to tease her. This is bullying. Xiao played with her black hair that fell on his knees. His smile was enough to make all living things fall. Then what about tonight? Peng Zhijing was stunned. Only then did she react. She immediately covered her ears with both hands. You pervert. Before the word pervert could come out, it was swallowed by him. The siege was a success. Little rascal, you're too stupid. You lost your defense so quickly. While they were entangled, she seemed to hear him softly laughing at her. However, she was already entangled by him to the point where she couldn't refute. She could only sigh again. This ginger was the spiciest when it was shameless. Chapter 1560. When they separated for the last time, Peng Zhijing finally learned to be smart. She hugged his waist and buried her face in his chest. No matter how he coaxed her, she wouldn't come out. Xiao knew that if he continued to tease her, even if little rascal was a paper tiger, if she didn't listen to him, he wouldn't be able to get anything good out of her tonight. Because even though little ball liked him, her imperial father, no matter what happened, she would always stand on her imperial mother's side. She could escape today, but she couldn't escape tonight. Xiao wasn't in a hurry. He gently patted little rascal's back and slowly exhaled the hot air in his chest. Do you think that with your jumpy personality, you won't be on the same side as the Empress? This was returning to her question from the beginning. Originally, she had only asked because she was interested. After the torment just now, she had already thrown this question to the back of her mind. Now that he had come back to it, she didn't know why, but she was more interested than before. But she had learned her lesson and didn't raise her head. She replied in a muffled voice in his arms. Yes, it's unbelievable. What's so surprising about it? Didn't I also become the emperor? Xiao replied with a smile. This answer was a bit out of her expectations. Peng Zhijing couldn't care about anything else. She raised her head from his arms and tugged at his sleeve. Xiao lowered his head to look at her. I remember when I first met you. Didn't you want to be the emperor? Why did you change your mind now? Her eyes were filled with confusion. Xiao smiled. Just treat me as young and ignorant. What the hell? Young and ignorant? Are you fucking kidding me? Peng Zhijing was dumbfounded. He knew that she would have this reaction. Xiao originally wouldn't talk about this matter in the future, and hadn't told her. Now that she brought it up, Xiao didn't want to hide it from her. Back then, didn't you want to persuade me to give up on revenge? Xiao stroked the stray hair in front of her forehead and continued. However, I didn't listen to your advice. I directed and acted out a play and pushed you off a cliff. I regret this very much. It's all in the past. Don't blame yourself. Pang Zhijing regretted bringing up this topic, but when she wanted to stop him, he continued. It was also after you fell off the cliff that I realized that I had already lost the most precious thing in my life. Revenge and seizing the throne had completely lost their attraction to me. People often don't cherish things when they have them. Only when they lose them will they regret it. Little rascal. Pang Zhijing was stunned by his affectionate analysis. Before she could feel the ecstasy in her heart, she heard him calling her. She looked up and met his eyes. Xiao stared at her. His beautiful and bright eyes were filled with confusion. He was a little absent-minded, but at the same time he rejoiced. The emotions in his eyes were as deep as before. He said slowly, word by word. Before I lost you, I didn't think that I still had a world to collapse. I thought that after Mother left, I would no longer be able to learn what it meant to be heartbroken. But when you broke free from my hand, I slowly lost track of you from my life. Only then did I know that I still had a world that collapsed because of you. If the heavens are willing to give me another chance, I'm willing to give up my hatred, give up everything just for you. Pang Zhijing heard what he wanted to tell her. She was his world, a life that he couldn't lose. She was incomparably moved and shocked. It turned out that he cared and loved her more than she had imagined. She reached out and hugged him tightly. I won't leave you in the future, so your world is still safe and sound. Xiao hugged her back. How could it be safe and sound? His world had already been shattered once. Although it had been fixed, it still needed to be carefully protected. Little rascal, you're right. If you cling to hatred, you'll lose yourself. It's just like how I've been seeking revenge on the wrong person all these years. Pang Zhijing was incomparably shocked. What? Wasn't the person who killed your mother Empress Liang and the others? Xiao revealed a faint smile. There was no warmth in his smile, only ridicule. I never thought that the person who killed my mother and slaughtered the entire Luo family was actually that beast of a father emperor. Pang Zhijing was completely shocked. She had been recuperating these past few years. Although she knew a bit about his recent situation, she knew nothing about these palace intrigues. When she came back this time, she saw that he was getting along well with Xiao Su and the others. She thought that they had abandoned their former enmity and let go of their grudges. She never thought that it was because Xiao's true enemy wasn't Xiao Su, but someone else. From this, she could imagine how much hatred and pain he felt when he found out that his enemy was his father emperor. Xiao, we have to think on the bright side. When I left that year, it was actually a good thing. Although I ruined your plan, it was also because of this that I stopped you from taking revenge. It allowed you to see the truth and recognize who the true mastermind was. Because of this, you gained your own hands and feet. In a lonely life, you had someone to accompany you. You got your revenge and you had brothers by your side. Isn't this a blessing in disguise? I suddenly feel that everything that happens in life has its own reason, and it's not meaningless. Pang Zhijing seriously analyzed it for him, trying her best to let him forget about the past. Xiao quietly listened. In the end, he planted a kiss on her forehead and gently said, "That's right. You're really the only little fortune in my life." Pang Zhijing reached out to hold his face and said in a serious tone that could not be refuted, "I'm really sorry that I wasn't by your side at that time, and let you experience the most painful and dark time alone. So don't blame yourself, alright? The matter of us not being by each other's side is even." Xiao looked into her eyes and was stunned for a moment. Then he realized that she wanted him to completely free himself from that period of guilt. His eyes curved into a gentle smile. "Alright." Pang Zhijing finally put down the large stone in her heart. She prepared to let go, but unexpectedly, he hugged her even tighter. "Empress, it's getting dark. We should go to bed." The sun was clearly still hanging in the sky, alright? What was this person thinking all day long? "You're ruining the atmosphere too much." She puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. Xiao carried her towards the palace. It's fine. We can slowly build the atmosphere in bed. Pang Zhijing subconsciously swallowed. How could it be like this? Weren't they just talking about life and ideals? Why did it suddenly develop in that direction? Your Majesty, this concubine just remembered that I need to go see Little Ball. The eunuch already came by once. Little Ball is learning to play the zither right now. I'm afraid that he won't be able to take care of his imperial mother. Then, Empress, don't think of any more ideas. Just obediently go to bed with us. Wu with this concubine can't do it. Chapter 1561. After cleaning up the entire stronghold, Tu Ling and the others did not find anything of value. It could be seen that the Sunblaze sect was already at the end of its rope. From a flourishing sect, it had fallen to its current state, which made them sigh. After the reorganization, Water Spirit was sent out to scout for information. Turin and Hualing each had their own duties. One arranged for a shadow guard, while the other led a group of bodyguards to protect their masters. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan led Jin Xian, Yan Luo, and the others out of the stronghold, and walked towards the so-called downtown area. Although Elder Zhua and the others have bad intentions towards us, I have to admit that they were able to persevere for so many years under such circumstances. Chu Qingyan sighed. That can only mean one thing. They've been successfully brainwashed by their religion, Xiao Su said, hitting the nail on the head. Chu Qingyan deeply agreed. After knowing the cause and effect, she felt that it was really lucky for the country to be able to go so far under the control of these two sections. The group of four had just walked into the lively street. There were peddlers selling goods on both sides. When they saw that Chu Qingyan and the others were dressed differently, they immediately shouted with all their might. Have you noticed the way these people are dressed? Chu Qingyan suddenly heard her Big Ice Cube ask in a low voice as they walked. She blinked. Big Ice Cube wouldn't ask about unimportant things. She immediately observed the people around them, and found that in this lively and bustling place, not only were there peddlers, but also the people who came and went. Their clothes were very shabby and their expressions were very panicked. They didn't fit in with this rich place. Big Ice Cube, why are the people in this place a little strange? Xiao Su narrowed his eyes. We need to investigate. Jin Xian heard the conversation between his two masters, and also looked around. Previously, he only paid attention to whether there were any suspicious people. This was an occupational disease as a bodyguard. Now that he paid attention, he found that these Ri people seemed to be living a very difficult life. However, this was one of the wealthiest towns in the Ri clan. This shouldn't be the case. At this time, Jin Xian saw a group of people walking over from the intersection not far away. They were wearing white and blue striped Yuclan clothes. He immediately pointed to them. Mistress, look at those people. When Chu Qingyan looked in the direction he was pointing, she saw that the leader of the Moon Clan had kicked over a stall selling chestnuts. He then raised his foot and crushed a pear that was being sold at another stall. The people behind him were laughing so hard that they were convulsing with laughter. They were extremely arrogant. Chu Qingyan noticed that the commoners were angry, but they did not dare to say anything. Even when their things were broken, they did not dare to make a sound. Their bodies were trembling violently, and this made the Moon Race people even more arrogant. Along the way, many stall owners suffered. If anyone protested, they would be beaten up. That group of people directly walked into a pawn shop, threw a money bag and walked out. Then they walked into a rice shop, carried a few bags of rice and swaggered out, completely ignoring the cries of the shop owners. If anyone tried to stop them, they would directly kick them. Damn it! Cheng Yanluo tugged at her handkerchief. Xining suddenly exclaimed, that old man is vomiting blood. As doctors, Cheng Yanluo and Ethereal naturally couldn't ignore this. They pushed through the crowd and went to support the old man. Ethereal inserted a silver needle into the old man's body to stop the bleeding. He opened his eyes weakly. When he saw Ethereal and the others, he said gratefully, "Thank you. This is too inhumane. Is no one going to do anything about it?" Cheng Yanluo said angrily as she took out a bottle of medicine from her sleeve. The onlookers shook their heads and smiled bitterly. How can we do anything about it? They're all from the Yu clan. Jean Xian's eyes narrowed. His tone was slightly agitated. So what if they're from the Yu clan? When the people saw Jean Xian's attire, they didn't laugh at him for not knowing the inside story. Instead, they said earnestly, "Young man, that's because you don't know. The Yu clan and the Sun clan are sworn enemies. Ever since the Sun Blaze sect declined, there was no one to protect us. The Yu clan gradually took over our territory and vented their past grievances on us commoners. They burned, killed, looted, and committed all kinds of crimes. It's not that we didn't fight back, but it was all in vain. Without protection, we're like rootless duckweed. We'll be bullied wherever we go. Moreover, the Yu clan is vicious and cruel. We can't beat them at all." The commoners spoke one after another, as if they had found a tree hole. They told Jean Xian and the others everything that had happened in the past. Those heinous incidents were unbearable for the audience. "Then what do you plan to do in the future?" Chu Qingyan asked a few of the commoners. She heard them laugh bitterly. "What else can we do? We'll just muddle along and live one day at a time. Anyway, with the heavens and earth as a furnace, who isn't suffering bitterly?" After saying that, they gradually dispersed. However, their footsteps were light and they began to repeat their daily routine, like walking corpses. Chu Qingyan could see that these people were no longer angry. They no longer had any hope for life. They've been oppressed and are not treated as humans. If a clan is broken from the roots and there's no new force to replace it, they'll lose their fighting spirit. If this continues, sooner or later they'll be destroyed. Xiao Su evaluated objectively, as if he could see the Sun clan a few years later. Jean Xian looked around in a daze. The commoners and peddlers had returned to their original places. Some were walking and some were peddling their wares, as if the Yu clan's attack had never happened. He muttered, "Why is it like this? Young man, this is very normal. The Moon clan has imposed a heavy tax on each of our families. If we can't pay, what awaits us is not only a vicious beating, but also the men will be banished to the army and the women will be sold to the brothel. So we have to live. We have to live." The old man's injuries had recovered a lot. With the help of Ethereal, he slowly stood up and said sadly. Chu Qingyan, Cheng Yanluo, and the others were in disbelief. Cheng Yanluo couldn't help but curse. Is he still human? He's a devil who eats human flesh and drinks human blood. And us commoners who have lost our protection. Aren't we struggling on the verge of death? The old man shook his head, his turbid eyes glistening with tears. Everyone was silent, their hearts full of complicated feelings. At this time, the old man thanked Ethereal and the others again for saving his life. However, he couldn't say much to them. He had just lost a few bags of rice, and he had to find a way to make up for it. Chu Qingyan looked at the old man's back as he left. She couldn't bear it. He was supposed to be enjoying his old age, but he still had to struggle to live. She couldn't help but sigh. At this time, Jean Xian suddenly said to her, "Master, this subordinate wants to leave for a while." Chu Qingyan nodded in agreement. Jean Xian immediately turned and left. Looking at his back, she didn't feel at ease. Xiao Su held her hand and said calmly, "Let him go. He needs time to digest all of this. After all, he still has feelings for this place." Chu Qingyan sighed softly. These facts were really too cruel for Jean Xian, but it was undoubtedly a kind of growth for him. Chapter 1562. After Jean Xian left, Xining was still worried. She asked for permission and followed him. Cheng Yanluo and Ethereal also left to walk around. Chu Qingyan looked at the bustling streets. The faces in front of her were expressionless, as if they were repeating mechanical actions. There was no vitality and no hope. She stopped in her tracks. She felt that she could no longer walk around with a clear conscience. "What's wrong?" Xiao Su asked with concern, sensing her emotional fluctuations. She looked up and saw the people walking around in front of her. She looked at him sympathetically. "Big Ice Cube, I feel sorry for them. Do you want to save them?" Xiao Su was silent for a while. "But we're not saviors." Chu Qingyan looked at him. Xiao Su continued, "We're from Sichuan. We belong to another country. It's not good for us to interfere in other people's political affairs, Unless what? She asked quickly. Xiao Su smiled faintly. Unless we have a good reason to act. A good reason to act? Chu Qingyan was stunned. Then an idea flashed through her mind. Jean Exine. That's right, it's trust. Xiao Su smiled faintly. That's right. As long as he says that he wants to help these people, we have a good reason to act. Otherwise, we can only help him find his enemies and take revenge. Chu Qingyan was elated, but she soon felt dejected. She rubbed her nose. But we don't know if Jean Exine will think the same way as us. Xiao Su patted the back of her hand and said calmly, don't worry. He has the same blood as them. He'll feel the same way. He just needs time to self-regulate and get over it. She was relieved that Big Ice Cube had said so. Actually, she wasn't a sentimental person. It was just that she couldn't help but want to stand up when she saw some unfair and inhumane things. If everyone stood by and did nothing, what would happen to the world? She just wanted to help when she saw injustice. Xiao Su held her hand and walked back. Let's go back. She nodded heavily. All right. The two outstanding figures gradually disappeared into the distance. Two figures appeared where Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan had been standing. I have to admit that your love rival is better than you in terms of IQ, EQ, and eloquence. Tao Tao crossed her arms and sneered. Higashio Motetsu didn't take her words to heart at all. He rubbed his chin, thinking about something. Seeing that he didn't react for a long time, Tao Tao thought that she had stepped on his sore spot, and was a little annoyed. She shouldn't have tried to poke at his sore spot, but her heart was upset because he still cared so much about Chu Qingyan. The two conflicting emotions in her heart made her very depressed. She lifted her foot and stomped on his foot. Higashio Motetsu didn't notice and was stepped on by her. His heart was filled with anger, and he reached out to grab the little witch who was about to turn and leave. Tao Tao angrily wanted to throw him away, but she didn't expect to be caught by him as soon as she turned around. He dragged her all the way to the side. She struggled to break free from him, but he was too strong and couldn't move her hand at all. She was a little discouraged. Looking at his back, he seemed to be emitting an aura that couldn't be ignored. His whole body seemed to be suppressing his anger. She remembered what she had done just now and couldn't help but feel guilty. She could only stumble and let him drag her along. Until they walked into a small alley, he threw her against the wall. Her elbow hit the wall and she gritted her teeth in pain. But she didn't dare to make a sound because she knew that he was on the verge of anger. She bit her lip and looked at him. At this moment, Higashio Motetsu's two hands were on either side of her, confining her in this small space to prevent her from escaping later. His eyes were staring at her. The distance between the two was so close that their breaths mingled. But Higashio Motetsu, who was at the top of his head, didn't notice how ambiguous the two of them were, and how their posture made one's imagination run wild. Tao Tao, who was worried that she had angered him, didn't notice it either. She was wholeheartedly thinking about how to reduce his anger to the minimum. Tao Tao, have you had enough? Higashio Motetsu gritted his teeth and glared at her. Tao Tao's momentum weakened, and she couldn't say anything for a long time. But at this moment, Higashio Motetsu, who had fainted from anger, didn't want to get any reason from her. He directly fired at her. How long are you going to be unreasonable for? These words seemed to ignite the grievances that Tao Tao had felt when she chased after him these days. She suddenly raised her head and questioned. I'm unreasonable? How am I being unreasonable? Was it wrong for her to like him? Along the way, she threw away her ladylike modesty and followed him around. Higashio Motetsu, you stinky man. You're too bad, too bad. Seeing that she was suddenly like a cat with its fur standing on end, Higashio Motetsu's anger hadn't subsided yet. He felt that it was beneath his dignity to argue with a girl, so he wanted to straighten up and ignore her. But inadvertently, he saw that her eyes were slightly red. He suddenly froze, as if something in his heart had been touched. This feeling didn't seem unfamiliar to him. He suddenly felt a little upset, and forgot to withdraw his hand. In the end he sighed. Okay. You're not in the wrong. You're not unreasonable, okay? When Tao Tao heard his perfunctory tone, she felt even more wronged and her eyes reddened even more. What do you mean? Are you pitying me? Are you patronizing me? You bastard. Higashio Motetsu took a deep breath. Sure enough, no matter who you offend, you shouldn't offend a woman. But when he saw her baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, he couldn't bear it. He didn't know when his anger had dissipated. He controlled his temper and softly coaxed her without him noticing. Okay, why are you throwing a tantrum? You're already an adult, but you're still acting like a child. I won't hold it against you for stepping on me and throwing a tantrum at me for no reason. At this time, Cao Cao felt that he was no longer angry. If it was according to their past interactions, this matter would be over. But she still felt wronged and climbed up the pole. She puffed up her cheeks and complained. But you yelled at me just now. Higashio Motetsu heard this and felt a headache coming on. So in the end, he was the victim in the wrong? I apologize. I won't be angry with you in the future, okay? Cao Cao pouted. This matter can't be let go just like that. You have to compensate me. Compensate? Higashio Motetsu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was the one who was stepped on, and in the end he still had to compensate her? But for some reason, when he saw her like this, he couldn't get angry at all. He raised his eyebrows in amusement. How do you want me to compensate you? Cao Cao rolled her eyes and said straightforwardly, I don't want anything. Hug me. What? He thought that he had heard wrongly and stared at her in disbelief. Hug. Cao Cao's voice had the soft and adorable sound of a kitten. Higashio Motetsu looked at her moist eyes and his heartbeat suddenly became chaotic. Chapter 1563. He gave a low cough and looked away, trying to find a topic to change the topic. Are you hungry? Let's find a place to eat first. As soon as he said that, Cao Cao opened her arms and hugged him, burying her face in his chest. His hand was still on the wall, and the two of them were so close. This hug caught him off guard. The girl's soft body was pressed against his firm chest, and her unique fragrance made his body stiffen. Cao Cao hugged him tightly. This was the only time she had succeeded after so many sneak attacks. Higashio Motetsu, you're too bad. You're always bullying people. She complained in a low muffled voice. Higashio Motetsu was completely stunned. He wanted to push her away, pry her away, or pull her away by her collar. Hearing her words, he blurted out without thinking. How did this young master bully you? He was a man, and the thing he disdained the most was to bully girls. Who told you not to answer me? She was referring to when they were on the street. Higashio Motetsu thought for a long time before he understood what she meant. This young master was thinking about something at that time. How could I care about your random thoughts? I don't care. You were even fierce to me just now. Cao Cao rubbed against his chest, not giving up. He really didn't know what to do with her. His hands were stiff at both sides. He didn't know whether to push her away or not. Let go of your hands first. We can talk things over. Cao Cao snorted. I have nothing to say to you. Don't talk. I'm righteous. Higashio Motetsu was angered by her words. Luckily they were in a remote place. Otherwise they would have attracted a crowd. Forget it, he was a magnanimous person. He wouldn't argue with her. Being hugged wouldn't hurt a piece of flesh. However, when he was really silent, she was dissatisfied again. How hard do you want me to work for you to look at me? Cao Cao asked in a righteous manner, but there was a faint loneliness that was hard to detect. When these words came out, he was stunned again. He couldn't answer this question. Why aren't you talking? The person in his arms impatiently asked. He sighed. Didn't you forbid this young master from speaking just now? Let's see who can stand you in the future. The person in his arms became restless. I'll cling to you. In order to prevent her from saying anything else, he deliberately threatened. If you don't hug me properly, I'm leaving. Finally, they settled down, and the world became peaceful again. However, she tugged at his clothes as if she was venting her dissatisfaction. She tugged at his clothes like a child who could not get her candy and was expressing her grievances. He sighed faintly in his heart, and a faint light flashed across his phoenix eyes. Then, as if he had compromised, he slowly reached out and hugged her back. All right, stop fooling around. This young master will take you to eat roast duck later. Tao Tao was stunned for a moment before the corners of her mouth curled up. What an unexpected gain. I want to eat too. If you're not afraid of getting fat, it's up to you. The setting sun elongated their shadows, intertwined with each other, as if they would never be separated. Sometimes, compromising was the beginning of the fall. It was just that whether they could walk together, and whether they could walk to the end, it was all unknown. On the other side, Jinxin walked up to a large tree by himself, his entire being immersed in a deep sense of conflict. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Jin Xian didn't turn back and asked, "Xining, do I look like a coward?" Xining, who had been worried about him, was stunned when she heard his question. Then she immediately shook her head, realizing that he couldn't see, and said firmly, "No, you're not a coward. In my heart, you've always been a man of indomitable spirit." "Is that so? But I don't think I'm as good as you say. I'm avoiding responsibility and making everything develop in the worst direction." The scene he saw just now was like a flash of light in front of him. He raised his hand and slammed it on the tree trunk. Leaves fell on him, and the pain on the back of his hand couldn't reduce the guilt in his heart. Xining screamed and ran to his side. Seeing that the back of his hand was bleeding, she quickly took out a handkerchief and carefully bandaged his wound. As she bandaged it, she complained, "Even if you're unhappy, you can't vent your anger on your own body." Jin Xian looked at Xining blankly. "Because other than this, I don't know what else to do." After Xining finished bandaging his wound, she looked up and fixed her gaze on him. "Jin Xian, there are many things I don't understand, but I know that every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. The lives of the Japanese people now are not caused by you. You don't have to bear the responsibility for others. But the blood of the Morong family flows in my body. I am a member of the Japanese people. My mother taught me when I was young that when I grew up, I had to bear the responsibility of protecting the people. I had to treat them well and love them." But Jin Xian clenched his hands and said hatefully, "But because of my family's revenge, I didn't want to return. I let the Yu clan bully the people. Even if I'm back now, I only care about revenge. I don't want to bear the responsibility that originally belonged to me. If I'm not cowardly and selfish, then what am I?" Xining immediately pulled his hand. Seeing the wound open again and staining the handkerchief red, her eyes gradually became red. "Jin Xian, is there any use in blaming yourself? Is there any use in hurting yourself? Can this drive the Yu clan out and let the people live a peaceful life again?" Jin Xian pursed his lips and looked at her, gradually calming down. "If it can't, then think of a way. How can we reduce the damage to the minimum? How can we save the people from the fire and water? I'm stupid. I'm not as smart as Master to help you solve the problem. I can only tell you that no matter what happens, I will stand by your side and support you. I won't leave you." Xining held his uninjured hand and said sincerely. Jin Xian's heart was incomparably moved. He held her hand back. "Thank you, Xining. You're not stupid. Compared to me, you're much smarter." "But I didn't help you with anything." Xining was a little embarrassed. "No, you've already helped me. I know what to do now." Jin Xian looked into her eyes and said solemnly, "Is that so?" Xining was a little excited. "Then what do you plan to do next?" "We have to go back and find Master." Jin Xian didn't say it out loud as he held her hand and walked back. Xining nodded. "Okay, but when we go back, I have to ask Miss Chung for some medicine and bandage it for you first. Otherwise, it will leave a scar." Jin Xian didn't care. "It doesn't matter. I'm not a girl like you." Xining shook her head and nagged. "No, if there's a scar, you won't look good holding a sword." She didn't understand the hatred of the country. She was only worried about his injuries. Jin Xian wanted to say that the scars on the man's body were more like meritorious deeds, but seeing her so nervous, he let her be. Chapter 1564. When Jin Xian knelt in the hall and stated his intention to reclaim the Japanese territory, Chu Qingyan couldn't help but look at her big ice block. Sure enough, everything was as she had expected. Jin Xian would make such a decision. However, she was a little puzzled. She was clearly closer to Jin Xian than he was, so why did the big ice block understand Jin Xian better than she did? What Chu Qingyan didn't understand was that sometimes, men understood men better. Moreover, in order to eliminate all the uncertain factors around her, Xiao Su had spent some time to understand Jin Xian. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed Jin Xian to enter the court as an official. If this is your decision, we won't object. But what do you want us to help you with? Xiao Su asked directly. Jin Xian kowtowed to the ground. This subordinate boldly requests that Master and His Highness can lend this subordinate a hand. This subordinate is alone in this body, only this life. With this as an oath, no matter what the result is, this subordinate is willing to dedicate this life to Master in this life, the next life, and the life after that. This oath was very heavy. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su couldn't help but look at each other. At this time, Xining also stood up and knelt beside Jin Xian. She kowtowed. Master, this servant also boldly requests that Master and His Highness can help Jin Xian. This servant is willing to do anything to repay you. Jin Xian turned his head, his eyes slightly red. Xining, thank you. Xining smiled. Between us, is there still a need for thanks? Jin Xian didn't answer. He just reached out and held her hand. Chu Qingyan did not expect the usually shy young lady to be so willing to go to such lengths for Jin Xin. She turned around and teased Big Ice Block. Is this what they mean by a friend in need is a friend indeed? It turns out that this person hasn't even married yet, but she's already helping an outsider. Xining blushed. Master, Jin Xian isn't an outsider. Yes, he's not an outsider. Chu Qingyan continued to tease her. Xining shyly moved behind Jin Xian and covered her face, causing Chu Qingyan to laugh loudly. Xiao Su looked at this unreliable wife of his and shook his head. He raised his hand and gestured for the two of them to stand up. Jin Xian, your master has already considered this matter for you. It's just that it's not easy for her to bring it up. After all, we're not citizens of North Korea. Only if you bring it up yourself can we help you with the plan. This isn't as simple as your previous family feud. This involves politics and the people's livelihood. Chu Qingyan also regained her composure. She nodded and continued her ice block's words. Jin Xian, I'm very happy that you're willing to take on your responsibilities. Even a hot-blooded person wouldn't be able to tolerate such a cruel side of the Yu clan, let alone a Japanese. Although you've lived outside for more than 10 years, the Japanese blood still flows in your veins. I'll leave my words here. No matter what help you need, Her Highness and I are willing to support and cooperate with you. So you can rest assured and boldly do it now. Jin Xian looked emotional. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Her Highness. Xining was also emotional and grateful. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Her Highness. But there's one thing, Xiao Su said, attracting everyone's attention. He locked his gaze on Jin Xian and said slowly, this matter requires you to take on the responsibility yourself. Since you want to take responsibility, then show us results. Jin Xian nodded heavily. This subordinate understands. I will definitely not disappoint you. Chu Qingyan smiled with relief. Well, since we've decided to take back everything that belongs to the Japanese, then we have to prepare for battle. What do you plan to do next? Jin Xian didn't hesitate. This subordinate will need the help of the High Priest and the others. After all, they've lived here for many years and know the Yu clan the best. We're new here, and there are many things that they don't know. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. I remember that the High Priest is also one of your enemies. Are you going to let him out so easily? Jin Xian said firmly. Master, in the face of national interests, personal hatred can be put aside. Moreover, this subordinate has the same goal as them, so I believe that they won't dare to play any tricks. Xiao Su's eyes flashed with admiration. He really didn't misjudge him. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan smiled faintly. She felt that Jin Xian had really grown up and could take charge of things on his own. She was very happy. Half an hour later, the High Priest and Elder Zhuo were brought to the hall. Jin Xian sat at the head of the table. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan retreated to the second row. On the other side sat Sima Jun and Ji Linyang, as well as Xiao Yao, who had come to join in the fun because he had nothing to do. The High Priest and Elder Zhuo didn't know why Jin Xian had them brought here. They looked at him warily. Morong Yunxian, what do you want to do to us? I'll say it right here. If you want to kill us or torture us, do as you please. Why don't you just stab us and give us a quick death? Although the high priestess was already an old woman, her awe-inspiring righteousness showed that she had been a fierce person when she was young. Elder Zhuo motioned for the high priest to calm down and said to Jin Xian, Young sect master, why did you call us here? After interacting with them on the way here, Elder Zhuo felt that he had a certain understanding of them. They wouldn't have brought him here for no reason. Moreover, if they really wanted to kill him, they would have done so long ago. Chu Qingyan felt that Elder Zhuo was quite perceptive. She turned to ask Jin Xian how to answer. Jin Xian said calmly, We went out for a walk today and discovered some things. Now let's hear what you have to say. What is the situation with the Yu clan and the Ri clan? Why doesn't the Yu clan treat the Ri clan's people well? The high priest and Elder Zhuo looked at each other in surprise. They thought that Jin Xian didn't care about the Ri clan's situation at all. They didn't expect him to take the initiative to bring it up today. Elder Zhuo was afraid that he would change his mind and hurriedly answered. Ever since the Morong clan's accident more than 10 years ago, the Yangyan sect has been in decline. A few years ago, the Yu clan attacked the Ri clan and defeated us in one fell swoop. After occupying our territory, we were no longer able to protect the people. The high priest also calmed down and continued Elder Zhuo's words. The Yu clan and the Ri clan have been like fire and water for hundreds of years. They see each other as enemies, so the Yu clan occupied our territory. It's fortunate that they didn't kill the Ri clan's people. It's just that every time we see them bully our people, we can't help but want to rush into the Hidden Moon Palace and cut the culprits into pieces. Elder Zhuo sighed. Young sect master, you should have seen the Yu clan's people today. How cruel their methods are. It's not just what you see on the surface. Spiritual suppression and martial suppression. In the long run, the Ri clan will be destroyed sooner or later. Jin Xian pursed his lips, his expression extremely ugly. The high priest snorted. Elder Zhuo, why are you saying so much to him? He won't help us. Elder Zhuo looked at Jin Xian and shook his head helplessly. What if we're willing to help the Ri clan drive the Yu clan out? The high priest and Elder Zhuo were stunned when they heard the words true faith. Chapter 1565. Are you serious? Elder Zhuo asked in disbelief. Perhaps it was because happiness had come too suddenly. Jin Xian raised an eyebrow and calmly said, A gentleman's word is as good as a whip. Good. With young sect master and these friends, our revival of the Sunblaze sect is just around the corner. Elder Zhuo was so happy that he danced. It was hard to imagine that someone so old could still be so nimble. No, we don't want to revive the Sunblaze sect. We just want to take back the Sun clan's territory that the Moon clan has taken over. That's all. Ji Lingyang's words were like a bucket of cold water poured over them. Elder Zhuo and the high priest looked at each other in a daze. In the end they seemed to give in. All right, as long as we're no longer suppressed by the Moon clan, we can do whatever we want. After reaching an agreement, Jin Xian brought Guardian Chui, Elder Gue, and the rest of the sect's core members over. Elder Zhuo explained the situation, and everyone was overjoyed. At this moment, Jin Xian waved his hand and someone brought over a plate with a few jade bottles on it. The high priest was shocked. What are you doing? Sima Jun walked over and weighed the jade bottles in his hand. His expression couldn't be more normal. Of course it's for the sake of mutual trust. You've done a lot of evil in the past, and your trust in us has already dropped to the bottom of the sky. So in order for us to have a happy cooperation, please take this medicine. When we're done, we'll naturally give you the antidote. During this period, we'll give you a medicine every month to ensure that the poison doesn't act up. However, if you betray us or violate our agreement, I'm sorry, but you'll die in the most painful way. After all, this begging for death pill was developed by Ethereal, and the rest after many years of research. Its effects are extraordinary. You're going too far. Guardian Chui was an impatient person. He yelled, very opposed to this method. We have no choice. If you don't take this medicine, our cooperation won't be successful. Sima Jun shrugged. In the end, It was Elder Zhua who comforted his people and calmly accepted. All right, we agree. With that, Elder Zhua poured out a pill from the bottle and swallowed it. The high priest didn't say a word and followed closely behind. Protector Chui and the others wanted to stop them, but it was too late. Elder Zhua said earnestly, "Don't forget what we've been doing all these years for." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked at each other. In the end they gritted their teeth and took the medicine bottle, taking it one by one. Chu Qingyan secretly nodded. It seemed that these people would not have any disloyalty in a short period of time. Moreover, these people were united enough to ensure efficiency. After reaching an agreement, a large round table was placed in the middle of the hall. An enlarged map of North Korea was placed on top of the table. The cities were marked out in detail, and even the mountains and rivers were clearly depicted. The Sunblaze sect left behind a few Elder Zhua and a few others, while the others waited outside for orders. Right now, we are in a remote area of the Sun Clan. The mountains are steep, and because of this, it will be difficult for the Yu clan to catch us. Elder Zhua said as he pointed at the top of the mountain. I want to know, there were so many people in the Sunblaze sect back then. Are you really the only ones left now? Chu Qingyan asked. The high priest revealed a sorrowful expression. After we were heavily injured by them, many of our people died or were injured. In addition, there was a heavy snowfall that happened once in 100 years. Many of us froze to death on the way out. Now we only have about 300 people left. 300 people? Chu Qingyan and the Big Ice Cube looked at each other. With so few people compared to the Yu clan, wasn't it like hitting a rock with an egg? Jean Xian raised a question at this time. You said that everyone was separated in the battle back then. Maybe they're just hiding like you guys. Can we send out a signal to gather those who are stranded outside? As soon as he said this, everyone felt that it was feasible. Okay, we'll start with the nearest cities. These 3 cities are close to the mountains, and the terrain is difficult to attack. 2 of these cities are close to the sea. If we guard the docks, it won't be easy for them to counterattack. So, our targets are these 5 cities. Perhaps the higher-ups didn't pay much attention to this, so there were fewer soldiers stationed in these remote cities, so their chances of success were higher. After Jean Xian finished speaking, he subconsciously looked at his master. Chu Qingyan smiled and encouraged him. The fierce wind cavalry and the howling cavalry will be under your command. We believe in you. Xiao nodded. Jean Xian nodded, full of gratitude. Then he began to distribute the tasks. Basically, everyone present received their tasks. Sima Jun and Ji Linyang expressed that they hadn't exercised in a long time and wanted to participate. With these 2 great helpers, it was even more exciting. Only Xiao took 2 steps back while waving his fan. He chuckled and said, I'm only here to sightsee. This kind of fighting and killing doesn't suit a refined person like me. I won't participate. Chu Qingyan smiled very amiably. Is that so? Why don't we go to war? You can have fun by yourself. As she spoke, she called Xining over. Send Xiao his salary and leave. Don't forget to prepare a horse for him. If he doesn't have a means of transportation, his legs will be tired. Xiao blinked. No way so cruel. However, the cruelest thing was yet to come. Xiao Su waved his hand. No need. Just throw him out. Xiao was stunned. If he was alone in this place, he would be captured at any time, okay? He put away his fan, took a big step, and returned to his original position as if nothing had happened. He said righteously, Jinxin, I have to help you reclaim your lost land no matter what. Tell me, what do you need me to do? This face-changing skill was truly top-notch. The originally solemn and tense atmosphere was instantly lightened and amused by his antics. North Korea was preparing to seize the city in full swing, while Sichuan was living a bashful and indescribably blissful life. Of course, this was for Xiao Ho. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. She grabbed the man who was still working hard on her body and pushed him down. Wait, you're saying that you don't have any lingering feelings for the imperial power? Xiao Ho looked at her lazily. I've said it before. Back then, I wanted to fight for the throne. But I just wanted to take revenge on Empress Liang and my eldest brother. Now that the truth is out, I no longer have such thoughts. Pang Zhijing widened her eyes and said regretfully, I thought you wanted to be the emperor, so I stayed with you. Since that's the case, why do I still want to be the empress? Why do you still want to be the emperor? You don't like it? Only a ghost would like it. I was also schemed against. Ho ho, can we not take on this difficult task? Pang Zhijing said coquettishly. Xiao Ho's eyes lit up. Benefits? She was stunned. This idiot couldn't be thinking of. Xiao Ho flipped on top again. Let's reap some benefits first, then your husband will find someone to take the blame. However, it will take some time. After all, your body needs to be properly nurtured. She was overjoyed. She wanted to say something, but he stopped her. Then, she sank into a new round of indescribable sweetness. Xiao Yao, who was far away on the horizon, suddenly shivered. He touched his nose as if he had a bad premonition. Chapter 1566. As soon as the planners came up with a plan, they began to take action. Not only were the Shaolai cavalry good at attacking, but they were also very good at hiding their tracks and ambushing. With them around, many of the operations went very smoothly. Unknowingly, those cities and towns had been stolen and swapped, and no one knew. A few days later, everyone gathered in the largest city that they had recovered. The speed at which we broke through the city this time is even faster than before. It's simply unbelievable. I've lived for so many years, but I've never experienced such a smooth siege. Elder Zhuo was extremely excited. Previously, he only thought that the Shaolai cavalry was a disciplined team with strong martial arts, but he did not expect them to be so good at fighting. Their combat ability could simply crush the elites of their glory days. If not for the fact that Xiao Su only brought a few hundred people this time, he felt that sweeping through the entire North Korea would not be a problem. Xiao Yao waved his fan. When he heard Elder Zhuo's sigh, he sneered. You think it's fast? Then you haven't seen my royal sister-in-law break through a city with beast soldiers. That's not an hour, it's a matter of minutes. Beast horde? Under Xiao Yao's signal, Elder Zhuo and the others looked at the few snow wolves lying on the ground with their bellies exposed as pillows for Xiaowankong. Their eyes were filled with suspicion. Chu Qingyan received their gazes and smiled disapprovingly. Don't listen to his nonsense. There's no such thing. Xiao Yao shrugged and closed his fan. In any case, don't have any ill intentions. Otherwise, the consequences will be. He made a tearing motion and laughed loudly. Elder Zhuo and the others looked at the snow wolves, then looked at Chu Qingyan. For some reason, they did not dare to treat Xiao Yao's actions as a joke. This was because on the way to recover the city, they had already broadened their horizons and witnessed the true strength of this group of people. In the past, they had only seen the surface, and none of them were to be trifled with. Perhaps what Xiao Yao said was true, and the thoughts in their hearts were immediately extinguished. After Elder Zhuo and the others left, Hualing giggled and said, Lord, were you scaring them just now? Those stubborn fellows have been contacting people behind our backs. Although it's all under our control and doesn't matter, we still have to show them who's boss. Otherwise, they won't know their place. Xiao Yao raised his eyebrows and lamented. You can never judge a book by its cover. Who knows if they will bite us in the back? Turin nodded. Lord is very thoughtful. Xiao Yao proudly raised his chin. That's right. I'm so smart. It's a waste of my talent to stay here. Chu Qingyan and the others were amused. Xiao Yao even looked at his imperial brother very proudly, his face begging him to quickly praise him. Xiao Su did as he wished and nodded. It is indeed a waste of talent. It seems that I should have left the abdication edict to you. What did it mean to collapse in a second? He was talking about Xiao Yao. His proud smile froze at the corner of his mouth, and then it slowly shattered at a speed visible to the naked eye. He chuckled, laughing as he retreated behind the Emperor Emeritus. What is Imperial Brother saying? This subject brother is so stupid. How can I bear such a heavy responsibility? It's better to leave this kind of brain work to OL-san. Otherwise, what if I squander away the foundation that our Sichuan has built up over the years? That's why I don't want to waste talent at all. It's fine as long as this subject brother has a place to display his remaining strength. Like Jean Xian's place, it's already very good. Before he finished speaking, the hall roared with laughter. Xiao continued to chuckle and hid behind the crowd. It was fine as long as he wasn't seen by Imperial Brother, who wanted to be that damn emperor. Xiao Su didn't argue with this idiot of a younger brother, and discussed the next step of the plan with Jean Xian. Xiao Yao sighed in relief. However, his imperial grandfather knocked on the top of his head. Useless. He covered his head and stomped his feet to complain. Imperial grandfather, can you not knock my head at the slightest disagreement? Grandson will be knocked silly by you. Have you ever been smart? The Emperor Emeritus directly hit him in the heart. The corner of Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. Imperial grandfather, your words make grandson very sad. As he spoke, he even made a gesture of holding his heart. Go go go. The Emperor Emeritus humphed. You have no ambition. This emperor has seen it before. You don't have the heart or the guts to do anything. You don't try anything or fight for anything. Do you really plan to live the rest of your life in mediocrity like this? Xiao Yao stopped hitting him and didn't hold his heart. He was simply stupid, alright? How is grandson mediocre? Look at the shops under grandson's hands. The tunnels are dug, and they're both civil and military. How is it mediocre? The Emperor Emeritus still had a look of disdain on his face. Then when your imperial brother asked you to sit on the throne, why didn't you? Xiao Yao was simply about to be angered to death. Suddenly he thought of something and laughed mischievously. Then why didn't imperial grandfather continue to be the emperor back then? Why did you throw the imperial jade seal to imperial father and pat your butt and leave? The Emperor Emeritus was speechless. This unfilial grandson really had a sharp tongue. You don't respect your elders. Imperial grandfather, you can't win an argument, so you hit me again. You can't be like this. Xiao Yao hugged his head and scurried around. The Emperor Emeritus elegantly withdrew his hand. This is called not allowing grandfather to set a fire, and not allowing you to light a lamp. Xiao Yao directly withered in the wind. Whoever wanted to be the emperor could be the emperor. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. Be reasonable, everyone. On the streets of the town, two figures shuttled through the sea of people. Is that Tonghulu? I want to eat it, I want to eat it. Hurry and help me buy it. Tao Tao pointed in front of her, and said excitedly to the person beside her. Higashio Motetsu didn't even bat an eyelid. What's so good about that kind of thing? It's just to trick a child. I'm a child. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Childish. If you want to eat, go buy it yourself. I'm going to the front to take a look. Higashio Motetsu continued to walk forward. However, no matter how many steps he took, it was as if he was still in the same spot. He frowned and turned to look at the person tugging at his sleeve. He looked at him stubbornly. Isn't it just a Tonghulu? Can't you buy it yourself? Tao Tao swallowed her saliva. I didn't bring money. He was stunned. He didn't expect this reason. He stiffly said, wait. After saying that, he squeezed into the group of children. According to the way they interacted in the past, he would often tease her. She didn't expect him to buy it for her so readily. Tao Tao felt that it was inconceivable. Could it be that she had melted his heart? Just as Tao Tao was immersed in her fantasy, a wooden stick was suddenly stuffed into her hand. To be precise, it was a stick filled with Tonghulu. Tao Tao was stunned. Beside her, Higashio Motetsu sighed in relief. As if relieved of a heavy burden, he said, There, your Tonghulu. It was almost trampled to death by that group of children. Tao Tao's face darkened. She finally exploded. I only wanted one or two. Are you trying to kill me by buying so many? When she shouted the first word, he immediately flew 3 feet away. He dug his ears and sighed in his heart. This lioness from Hudong's roar was really getting better and better. He didn't know which unlucky guy would marry her in the future. If Tao Tao knew what he was thinking, she would probably hit him with the stick. How embarrassing. Take it yourself. If you dare to throw it away, I'll cry here and complain that you bullied a weak little girl like me. Let's see who will believe you. Higashio Motetsu's head was full of black lines. Weak little girl? She could kill someone with a few silver needles without spilling blood, okay? In the end, he was the one who carried the stick for her. Chapter 1567. Uncle, can you sell us a stick of candied haws? Higashio Motetsu was walking when he suddenly heard someone calling out to him. He looked down and saw a group of children surrounding him, holding copper coins in their hands and looking up at him. Tao Tao, who was chewing on the candied haws, held her stomach and laughed when she saw this scene. The corner of his mouth twitched. Isn't it because of you that this young master went from being a master of a clan to being a seller? Tao Tao covered her mouth and laughed even harder. He rolled his eyes at the sky, then pulled out a few sticks from the stick and bent down to hand them to the children. It's free, I'll give it to you. Looking at his smooth movements, Tao Tao even forgot about the food in her mouth. She always thought that a rich young master like him would disdain dealing with people at the bottom of society. She didn't expect that everything he did would exceed her expectations. How many shining points did this person have that had yet to be discovered? She suddenly felt like she had picked up a treasure, and became more determined to subdue him. Higashio Motetsu stood up after sending the children off, and felt the strange gaze from this little witch. He raised his eyebrows and crossed his arms. What are you up to now? Tao Tao came back to her senses and laughed mischievously. She waved her hands. Nothing, I'm not thinking of anything. I just think that you're very kind. Kind? He found it very funny. What's that? Can it be eaten? He didn't wait for Tao Tao's reply and continued to walk forward. Tao Tao chased after him. Hey, why did you leave halfway? I suddenly feel like I have nothing to say to you. Humph, you're bullying people again. Too ungentlemanly. Tao Tao pretended to pull his ear. Higashio Motetsu had to avoid the crowd, avoid her hand, and protect the wooden stick. He couldn't use his martial arts and couldn't help but scold her. Stop fooling around. And it was under these circumstances that they reunited with Chu Qingyan and the others. Dongting. A joyous voice with the joy of a reunion penetrated the crowd. Higashio Motetsu was stunned. When he confirmed that it wasn't an auditory hallucination, he looked around for the figure. It wasn't until he saw Chu Qingyan in a tea house that his brows relaxed, and he quickly walked over. Tao Tao's hand froze in the air. When she heard that voice, she knew who it was. Just as she was about to look for the person beside her had already walked away with large steps, walking towards the peerless woman with hair as black as ink and a fiery red dress. She wasn't jealous of Chu Qingyan. However, after she had been with Dongting Wangyu for 2 to 3 years, he could still abandon her without even looking back. Did that mean that all these years of companionship had not left a single trace in his heart? As she watched him walk step by step towards the cinnabar mole in her heart, she felt as though he was getting further and further away from her. Or she. The sugar-coated haws in her mouth had just broken through the layer of syrup. The sourness of the fruit spread to her heart. It seemed that the leaves had disappeared like the syrup, revealing the truth. She stood rooted to the ground, not knowing where to go. She was at a loss. Higashio Motetsu walked in front of Chu Qingyan and squatted down to greet little Ankong. Hey little one, you seem to have grown taller. Come, uncle will treat you to some sugar-coated haws. With that, he took a piece and stuffed it into little Ankong's hand. Little Ankong hugged it and smiled sweetly. Thank you, Dongting Crispy. He patted little Ankong's head before straightening up. He took another piece and handed it to Chu Qingyan. Here, it used to be your favorite. Chu Qingyan didn't stand on ceremony and took a bite. She felt that it tasted pretty good. Is your sect unable to hold on any longer? A dignified palace master coming out to do business? Hearing his good friend's teasing, Higashio Motetsu rolled his eyes at her in annoyance. I'm just doing a side business. I'm just doing it for fun when I have nothing to do. Oh, Chu Qingyan dragged her voice. She didn't see wrongly the intimate interaction between him and Tao Tao just now. Higashio Motetsu was a little uncomfortable with her dragging out the end of her voice, but he didn't know how to explain himself. The more he tried to explain, the worse it would get, so he decided not to. Why isn't Tao Tao here yet? At this moment, Chu Qingyan looked from afar and asked. Higashio Motetsu followed her gaze and realized that Tao Tao hadn't followed them, and was still standing there in a daze. Dongting Crispy, you lost your wife again. Little Ankong took small bites of the sugar-coated haws and criticized him like a little adult. At this moment, Higashio Motetsu didn't listen at all. He looked at the scene in the distance and suddenly widened his eyes. This troublesome girl only knew how to cause trouble for him. His heart moved and his body moved. He stuffed the sugar-coated haws into Hualing's hands, then used his qinggong to pass through the crowd and quickly landed in front of Cao Cao. He reached out and hugged her to the side. With a tap of his feet, the two of them spun and left the place. At this moment, a carriage quickly drove past where the two of them were standing. Cao Cao still didn't understand what had happened. She only felt that her surroundings were filled with his scent, and the place he was hugging was still hot. She looked at him in a daze. Didn't he not want her just now? Why did he come back? However, Higashio Motetsu didn't know what she was thinking at all. He scolded her to her face. Where did your cleverness go? You didn't even see such a big carriage. So many people are calling you, are you deaf? Cao Cao couldn't listen to anything now. She hugged him and threw herself into his embrace. I'm already like this and you're still scolding me. Don't you have any pity at all? Her sobbing voice made his heart tremble. For a moment he didn't know if he should continue speaking or push her away. At this time, Chu Qingyan walked over with some people. Seeing the sugar-coated haws on the ground and the one in Hualing's hands, she immediately understood. She pursed her lips into a smile. It seemed like there was something going on between the two of them, but she shouldn't be concerned about this right now. Chu Qingyan asked in a concerned voice, Is Cao Cao alright? She's probably scared. Higashio Motetsu also forgot to push Cao Cao away as he answered Chu Qingyan. He thought for a bit and said, You guys find a place to sit first. I'll stay with her for a bit, and then come find you guys later. Cao Cao secretly raised her head and winked at her. Chu Qingyan looked at Cao Cao and understood. Her face was still calm as she said, Alright, then we'll go to the tea house and wait for you guys. You don't need to rush, take your time. After saying this, she brought little Ankong, Jasper, and Hualing back. From afar, she could still hear Dongting reprimanding Cao Cao. You're already so old. Why don't you watch where you're going? Why is it that you look so smart, but at such a crucial moment you drop the ball? Are you still going to stare blankly on the road in the future? If there's a next time, I won't care about you anymore. Chu Qingyan turned around and saw Dongting pulling on her arm, talking endlessly. Perhaps even he didn't notice how nervous he was earlier and how earnest he was now. It was completely different from his usual frivolous self. Chu Qingyan shook her head with a smile, then turned around and continued walking. Chapter 1568. After Chu Qingyan and the rest drank a pot of tea, Dongting and Cao Cao finally arrived. Dongting was still nagging. Did you remember what I said? Cao Cao had already regained her energy. Hearing him nagging like an old mother, she waved her hand. I know. Hurry up and drink some water. As she spoke, she stuffed the teacup that Chu Qingyan had passed to her into his hands. Then, she shrugged at Chu Qingyan and used her index finger to point at her ear, hinting that she was about to be ravaged to the point of no return. Chu Qingyan felt that the two of them were becoming more and more like quarrelsome lovers. Seeing that she had already said her piece, Higashio Motetsu really sat down and drank his tea, no longer bothering with her. Why are you here? After the two of them sat down, Chu Qingyan threw out her question. Logically speaking, they should be in the Sichuan. She remembered that 3 months ago, Dongting had sent her a letter saying that he had some matters to attend to in the sect, and had to go on a long journey to settle them. Why were they here now? Higashio Motetsu drank a mouthful of tea to moisten his throat. Then he put down the teacup and looked at her. In a casual tone he said, One gets tired of staying in the same place all the time. I've been working hard for the Moon Palace for the past 2 years. It's time for me to take a break. Otherwise, my old bones won't be able to play in the future. At this moment, little Ankong immediately put down the pastry in his mouth. He reached out his short hand to pat the back of his hand and comforted him. That won't happen. Dongting Susu is very young. Even if you're old and can't walk in the future, Kongkong will take you to play and fly. Higashio Motetsu immediately pulled little Ankong into his arms. With a gratified expression, he pinched his chubby little face. This young master didn't dote on you for nothing. You're so obedient. In the future, when you come to the Moon Palace, you can play as you wish. If Xuanqi Zimo and the rest of the Moon Palace disciples heard that their master had casually sold them to a little brat, they would probably feel like dying. Chu Qingyan shook her head in amusement. Don't spoil him. Otherwise, he'll climb over your head and act like a tyrant. Before Higashio Motetsu could answer, Tao Tao spoke first. Maybe he's a masochist and he's happy to do it. Higashio Motetsu glared at her. Go away. You're just a child. Why are you listening to an adult? Tao Tao made a face at him. Then, as if deliberately going against him, she pulled Nkong over and said, We're all children today, so we won't play with the adults. Come, don't sit on Dongting Susu. Come here with Sister Tao. Xiao Nkong cooperated and slipped off the ground. He said to Higashio Motetsu, Dongting Susu, Kong Kong and Sister Tao went to play. After that, the two of them held hands and ran to the table at the other end, ignoring Higashio Motetsu's face that instantly darkened. Dongting Crispy? Big Sister Tao. Calling him uncle, but calling her sister? Tao Tao, you're really something. Chu Qingyan sipped her tea as she observed the changes in Dongting's emotions. She had an idea in her heart. She smiled gently. Did you really come here to play? Retracting his gaze from the two of them, Higashio Motetsu played with his teacup and his expression became more serious. Not really. It's mainly because you guys came to this unfamiliar place without saying a word. You even brought Kong Kong along. I'm a little worried. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I might as well come and see if there's anything you guys need help with. This was the truth. Chu Qingyan nodded. Her gaze landed on Tao Tao as she teased. So you brought her along to play? I didn't expect you to be so romantic. Higashio Motetsu rolled his eyes. This girl insisted on following me. I ran a few times, but I don't know how she found out. I seriously suspect that she bribed Zimo and the other brats. Chu Qingyan nodded secretly. She had to subdue the people around him first. This little girl was indeed clever and cute. She could not help but want to be a matchmaker. As a young girl, it's not easy to be so thick-skinned to chase after you. I see that Tao Tao is sincere towards you. Don't you want to consider it? The teacup in his hand suddenly stopped spinning. In the past, he could resolutely reject this question, but for some reason, he found it difficult to say it now. He frowned. He did not like his state. He put down the teacup and poured himself another cup of tea. When the tea entered his mouth and moistened his dry throat, his reason came back. What a joke. It's so good to live alone. No one cares about you. You can go wherever you want. The world is so carefree. Why bother to be tied to others? Chu Qingyan supported her chin with one hand, judging how much truth there was in his words. It's a little scary for you to look at me like that. Higashio Motetsu touched his arm to see if there were any goosebumps. She was amused by his reaction. All right, I won't care about you anymore. Anyway, as someone who has been through it, I'll give you a piece of advice. Cherish the people in front of you. Higashio Motetsu opened his mouth to refute her, but he could not help but look at the person on the other side. At this moment, Tao Tao was playing rock paper scissors with little Nkong. Both of them were tired from playing. One was drinking tea while the other was eating pastries. Tao Tao, when can I eat your and Dongting Su's wedding candy? Little Nkong asked innocently. Tao Tao leaned on the table with a depressed face. How would I know? You don't know, your Dongting Su is too hard to chase. I've already chased him for so long. It's okay, don't be discouraged. Mother said before that sincerity can move metal and stone. Hearing little Nkong's childish voice comforting her, Tao Tao felt that her depression had dissipated. She could not help but kiss him. You're really a considerate little cotton-padded jacket. No, little cotton-padded jacket refers to a young lady. Bao Bao is a body armor. As he said that, he even made a martial arts gesture, making Tao Tao laugh. Where are you guys staying now? Why don't you come with us? Chu Qingyan's question pulled Higashio Motetsu back from his thoughts. He thought about how Tao Tao had been complaining about the bustling city below where they lived. It was noisy all day long, and the words of rejection turned into agreement. Then it's getting late. Let's go back together. After Chu Qingyan finished speaking, She got up and called her son and Tao Tao over. On the way back, Tao Tao did not know why he suddenly changed his mind and went with Chu Qingyan. While she was muttering in her heart, she heard Higashio Motetsu talking to Hualing. Higashio Motetsu coughed lightly. "Let this young master carry this Tonghulu skewer." Hualing waved his hand disapprovingly. "It's fine, it's not heavy at all." "No, it's too troublesome. We'll do it ourselves." After saying that, Higashio Motetsu directly took it. Hualing did not react at all, and his hands were empty. He really attacked without saying a word. Tao Tao was baffled. Wasn't this person disdainful of this thing just now? Why did his personality change? At this moment, a Tonghulu skewer appeared in front of her eyes. She looked up from his slender fingers, but saw that he did not even look at her as he said, "Don't you like to eat it? Hurry up and eat it." Tao Tao took the Tonghulu skewer, feeling both sweet and troubled. "My goodness, don't you know that eating too much candy will also cause toothache?" Chapter 1569. Jin Xian and his men reclaimed the cities very quickly. In just half a month, they had reclaimed all the surrounding cities. Although they were all small and remote towns, even a fly's leg was meat. The Sun Flame sect members who had lost contact with them all rushed over when they heard the news. Originally, there were only a few hundred people, but slowly, there were more than 10,000 people. Although they were currently in a remote area, these movements quickly reached the ears of the Serene Moon sect. They sent a group of people to deal with them. It was also possible that after so many years, the Tranquil Moon sect had been the dominant force and was somewhat arrogant, so they did not think highly of this group of people who suddenly revolted. So they casually sent people who were not Jin Xian's match at all. In these few days, Jin Xian and his men continued to attack. They first dealt with the people sent by the Serene Moon sect, baiting them and numbing them. When they reclaimed the other big cities, they would give them a head-on blow. As Jin Xian's style of doing things became more and more stable, a small moon clan was not a problem at all. So Xiao Su did not interfere anymore, only occasionally giving advice. The rest of the time was spent on sightseeing with his wife and children. Sima Jun liked to join in the fun, while Ji Linyang liked to play the world like a game of chess and doted on his wife. The husband and wife pair followed you wherever you went. So Ji Linyang followed his playful wife to Jin Xian's side, plotting against others while doting on her. As for Xiao Yao, because he was accidentally hit by a ladder while charging into enemy lines last time, he had been using recuperation as an excuse to stay with his brother and sister-in-law. Although Xiao Su disliked him, he still allowed him to follow. Cheng Yanluo naturally followed her good friend, and Ethereal went without saying. Wherever his master went, he would follow. Of course, now that he had one more, he would follow wherever his wife went. So the group changed one town after another. Now this place was relatively prosperous and was closer to the Serene Moon sect's stronghold in the Sun Clan's territory. After staying in the mountains for a month, now that we've come to a bustling place, I can't believe my eyes. Tao Tao stood under the city gate and opened her arms, sighing. Higashio Motetsu walked over, raised his fan and knocked on her arm. "Watch the road carefully. I'm not a child." Ever since the horse carriage incident, this fellow did not stop. Higashio Motetsu ignored her clamor and carried little Nkong on his shoulder. Then he smiled and said, "Let's go, uncle will bring you to play." Tao Tao could not get angry. She could only stomp her feet and follow. Chu Qingyan shook her head and smiled. Xiao Su's lips curled into a smile. He held her hand and walked up slowly. Seeing this, Cheng Yanluo and Kong Ling also held hands and followed. Bai Yu glanced at him coldly. "This servant refuses to make do. This servant will go and accompany the little master." With that, she left without looking back. Xiao Yao felt like a bolt from the blue had struck his head. Had his charm deteriorated? Why couldn't he even handle a little girl? "My heart is sad. No one knows my sorrow." Hualing patted his shoulder. "Lord, take it easy. Be careful not to get lost." With that, Hualing strode to catch up with Jasper. Xiao Yao suddenly felt that the couples in front were so hateful. He deepened his conviction that he was alone. He was still alone, free and unrestrained. Long live the single dog. After mentally preparing himself, Xiao decided to eat 3 bowls of rice tonight to soothe his wounded soul. Then he slowly followed them. At this moment, Cheng Yanluo and Ethereal started arguing. I say, do you think that the girl is pretty, so you took a few more glances? Xiaoyan, listen to my explanation. There's nothing to explain. Any explanation is just a cover-up. Xiaoyan, you can't say that. Then what else do I have to say? I heard that the girls in the Tranquil Moon sect are all immortals, not to mention their sect master. Now that we're here, maybe one of them is from the Tranquil Moon sect. It's not strange if you like them. Xiaoyan, what are you talking about? I just think that her hairpin is pretty and want to see where it's sold. I'll buy one for you. Oh really? Why would I lie to you? Don't be angry. You should have said so earlier. I wouldn't be angry. Thus, the two of them went from arguing to being sweet. Xiao was dumbfounded. This was too scary. They quarreled and reconciled. He felt that it was better for him to be alone. However, he was interested in the Tranquil Moon sect now. After all, everyone loved beauty. Hualing, what's the situation with the Tranquil Moon sect? Because he was at the front lines previously, he did not know what the rear had gathered. It was normal that he did not know about the Tranquil Moon sect. Hualing was called out and explained seriously. This Tranquil Moon sect is said to be a girl inheriting the position of sect master. A few years ago, this sect changed to a new sect master. She's very young, around 15 or 16 years old. I heard that she's very talented and beautiful. It's just that she's aloof and not easy to get in touch with. She wears a veil all year round. However, her ability to manage the sect is not inferior to outstanding men. So young? It's so infuriating now. Xiao rubbed his chin and was a little surprised. However, for successors, they were groomed from birth. There were many who were outstanding at a young age, so it was not strange. She should be around 18 or 19 years old now. Hualing estimated. Xiao shook his head. But she's so young and has done so many heartless things. She's really vicious. Don't let me see her. I'll teach her a lesson. Hualing coughed softly. It would be good if Yao was not taught a lesson. To be able to sit in this position, how could she be a simple character? Right, what's the name of that Tranquil Moon sect master? I think she's called Gongsun Shui. Xiao rubbed his chin and said, it's a pity about the name. At this time, the flow of people suddenly increased. Xiao avoided a few carriages and turned around. He suddenly did not see Hualing, nor did he see his royal brother and sister-in-law. He raised his brows. No way, he was so unlucky. He really got lost? Forget it. He walked back to take a look. At this time, a masked girl wearing a white brocade dress quickly passed through the sea of people. She walked quickly while holding her chest. Behind the white veil, faint traces of blood could be seen. Quick, she's over there. A death sentence came from behind her. The masked girl frowned. She looked up and decided to walk up. She jumped onto the shoulders of passers-by and prepared to grab the wine flag to fly up to the roof. However, her injuries flared up. She lost her balance and fell down. Xiao, who had just walked to the tavern, heard the screams of passers-by. He subconsciously raised his head and saw a white-clothed fairy descending from the sky. Chapter 1570. Her white dress fluttered in the wind, and her white veil fluttered in the wind. Her beauty was unparalleled. Xiao was stunned. His body reacted faster than his mind, and he reached out to catch the masked woman falling from the sky. He hugged the woman and took a few steps back. The masked woman was the first to react. She coldly ordered, "Let go." Xiao then remembered that men and women should not touch each other. Just as he was about to let go, he heard someone shout, "I see her. She's in front." Looking up, he saw a group of fierce people holding knives and blowing over. Xiao's heart was filled with a heroic feeling of a hero saving a beauty. He grabbed the masked woman's wrist and whispered, "Someone wants to harm you? Don't be afraid. I'll protect you." As he spoke, he took the masked woman to the side of an alley. The masked woman did not know whether he was a friend or foe. She struggled to break free. "Let go of me. Otherwise, I won't be polite." Xiao Yao paid attention to the movements of the pursuers while preventing her from breaking free. You're just a weak woman. You're no match for them. Don't worry, I'll protect you. The masked woman could not break free and gave up. She sneered in her heart. If she was not injured, these people would not be a problem at all. After turning here and there, she still could not shake off those people. Xiao Yao was a little surprised and could not help but ask, "Did you kill someone or set fire to it? Why are these people chasing you so tightly? If you're afraid, then let go." Xiao Yao sneered. Why was this beauty so cold? The masked woman thought that he had let go and was ready to escape. She thought that people were all like this. She did not expect that he would bend down and pick her up. He flew up a tree and used the leaves to hide his body. In order to hide better, Xiao Yao shielded her in his arms. In other words, she was hugged by him. Their posture was very ambiguous. Although Xiao Yao usually seemed to be a womanizer, it was just an act. Even now he was trying to save someone, so he did not think of this layer. For the masked woman, besides the restaurant, this was the first time she had such intimate contact with a man. She raised her palm and was about to slap him. Xiao Yao seemed to have expected this. He moved his finger slightly and pressed on her acupuncture point. The veiled woman was fixed in place, unable to move. She narrowed her eyes slightly. If looks could kill, Xiao Yao would have died countless times. Xiao Yao sensed the cold beauty's hostile gaze and felt extremely wronged. As he observed the intersection, he explained, "I'm not thinking about our safety. If you had cooperated, I wouldn't have sealed your acupoints." The masked woman didn't feel like looking at him. She closed her eyes as if she didn't want to see him. Xiao Yao rubbed his nose. It couldn't be, right? Was he being ignored just like that? In any case, he wasn't bad looking. He was on the list of handsome men in the capital city. However, at this moment, the assassin who had been chasing her passed by. He immediately put on a serious face and covered the masked woman's mouth with one hand. The masked woman suddenly opened her eyes and stared at Xiao Yao. Didn't he touch her blood? Why did he cover her mouth? However, Xiao Yao didn't know anything. He stared at the people below and saw that they couldn't find anyone after searching for a while before leaving in a hurry. He let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to relax, he heard a series of footsteps. He saw a group of people chasing after him from the entrance of the alley. However, these people were all women. They were wearing blue and white clothes, and their expressions were flustered. He felt extremely curious. He lowered his head to look at the person in his arms and laughed softly. "I didn't expect you to have so many enemies." Wave after wave came. Fortunately, I was quick-witted. The veiled woman didn't want to pay attention to him at all. She stared at the people below and tried her best to break through her acupoints. However, she didn't know how this person had sealed her acupoints. She circulated her energy for a long time, but her acupoints were not unsealed. Instead, her injuries worsened. She could only watch as the women returned empty-handed. The veiled woman turned to look at the boastful person. This idiot, those people were here to save her. After being messed with like this, she didn't know how to find them. Xiao Yao felt her burning gaze and thought that she was thanking him. He couldn't help but wave his hand. "I can't thank you enough. I'll send you down first." After waiting for a while, Xiao Yao felt that those people wouldn't come back. He reached out his hand and brought her to the ground. When he let go of her, he unsealed her acupoints. No matter how indifferent she was usually, the veiled woman couldn't help but slap Xiao Yao's face. Xiao Yao, who was still immensely pleased with himself, didn't expect this at all. He didn't have time to react and was hit directly. He covered his face and stared at the ice beauty in a daze. He asked foolishly, "Why did you hit me?" Despicable, vulgar, shameless. The ice beauty's lips parted slightly. There was no emotion in her voice, but one could hear her anger. Ha! Xiao Yao felt wronged. He was kind enough to save someone, but he was treated as a lecher. He felt even more wronged than Do-yi. He moved his lips, wanting to explain something. However, the other party had already turned around, as if she didn't want to look at him again. The ice beauty clutched her chest. She had used too much strength just now and her injuries were probably worse. She had to find a place to treat them. She walked in the direction she came from. Xiao Yao covered his face as he watched the person gradually walk away. He had a stomach full of bitterness. He had never been wronged like this before. In any case, he was handsome and elegant. He was a good youth with high moral values. He didn't need to bully a girl. He wanted to go up and explain, but he was afraid that this person wouldn't let him explain and would slap him again. Wouldn't that be too embarrassing? However, what happened next didn't make him feel conflicted. Because the ice beauty fell down while walking, he immediately walked up and squatted beside the ice beauty. He reached out his hand to check her breathing. When he found that she had only fainted, he was relieved. Then he sighed. I offended you this time because I wanted to save you. Don't hit me indiscriminately again. With that, he reached out his hands and picked up the ice beauty. He lowered his head to take a look. She was so quiet that she looked like an otherworldly fairy. However, now wasn't the time to admire the beauty. He had to find his royal brother, and the others first. When he came out of the alley, he heard someone calling him. When he turned his head, he met his royal sister-in-law's incredulous gaze. Second brother, although this isn't our Sichuan, it's still against the law to kidnap a girl. You can't do anything against the law. Otherwise, you're royal brother, and I won't be able to save you. Chu Qingyan advised seriously. Xiao Yao looked at the person in his arms. He felt that he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. It was fine if it was just a misunderstanding. But his royal sister-in-law who had known him for so many years also said the same thing. Was he really that bad? Why don't he just find a piece of tofu and kill himself? Chapter 1571. Cheng Yanluo placed her fingers on the ice beauty's hand and quietly felt her pulse. Did something happen to him? Xiao Yao asked with an uncertain expression. Chu Qingyan looked at her impatient brother and couldn't help but smile. This was the first time she had seen him so anxious. At this moment, Xiao Su said calmly, "Brother, be quiet." Only then did Xiao Yao shut up, not daring to interrupt Cheng Yanluo's examination. After a moment, Cheng Yanluo retracted her hand and looked serious. She said to everyone, "This girl was hit by a palm. It's not serious, but her lungs have been damaged. She needs to recuperate for a while, but what?" Chu Qingyan asked on Xiao Yao's behalf as he had been ordered to keep his mouth shut by the ice cube. Cheng Yanluo thought for a moment, and chose her words carefully. She has other illnesses. When I checked her pulse just now, I found that her pulse was very abnormal. It seems like she's been poisoned, but it doesn't seem like it. Huh? What's going on? Xiao Yao couldn't help but ask. I've studied medicine for so many years, but I've never seen such an illness. However, I can tell that this illness has been around for many years. Perhaps she was born with it. Will it endanger her life? This was what Xiao Yao was concerned about. I'm not sure. Cheng Yanluo shook her head, looking helpless. Everyone was surprised by Cheng Yanluo's words. Her medical skills were undeniable. If even she couldn't tell, then they could only wait for Ethereal. Unexpectedly, Ethereal returned with the medicine. Yanluo explained the situation to him in detail. He went to check the girl's pulse without hesitation. But his conclusion was the same as Yanluo's. Let's treat her injuries for now. We'll talk about the rest when she wakes up. Perhaps she knows her own condition. Ethereal suggested. Everyone looked at Xiao Yao, waiting for him to make a decision. Xiao Yao was still immersed in the conversation. When he sensed everyone's gaze on him, he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Why are you all looking at me like that? You're the one who brought her back. You're responsible. Xiao Su strode out. Chu Qingyan nodded. A hero saves a damsel in distress, so it's only right to send the damsel in distress. After saying that, she followed Xiao Su and left. Cheng Yanluo had already written down the prescription. She walked over and handed it to Xiao Yao. I'll apply the ointment for her external injuries later. Brew the medicine according to this prescription. Boil 5 bowls of water into 3 bowls of water, then another bowl of water. Take it 3 times a day after meals. Don't forget. Without waiting for Xiao Yao's response, she left with Ethereal to concoct medicine. Xiao Yao looked at the prescription in his hand, and then looked at the person on the bed. He felt like he had shot himself in the foot. In the end, he could only resign himself to fate and go out to brew the medicine. 2 hours later, Xiao returned with a bowl of medicine in his hands. Just as he walked to the bedside, he remembered that this person was unconscious. How could he feed him medicine? What a headache! He thought for a moment and sat down. Seeing that her face was still covered with a veil, he thought that he should take it off first, and then help her up. However, just as he stretched out his hand, the person who had her eyes closed suddenly opened them. She reached out and threw a punch at his face. Xiao was too close to her, and was hit squarely. He fell to the ground with his back facing the sky, and the bowl of medicine in his hand flew out. The ice beauty sat up and looked coldly at the person lying on the ground. However, Xiao reacted first. He didn't blame her for hitting him, but looked at the spilled medicine on the ground. He raised a trembling hand and pointed at her with a mournful face. It wasn't easy for me to brew it, and you spilled it just like that. It's my first time brewing medicine, and it wasn't easy for me to. Only now did the ice beauty see clearly that it was medicine on the ground. She also heard clearly that it was prepared for her. She pursed her lips and realized that the wounds on her body had been treated. Her clothes were clean and neat. This person was also sincerely wailing about the medicine on the ground. Only then did she understand that he wasn't trying to take advantage of her. However, after many years of being in a high position, she had developed a temper that wasn't good at expressing her emotions. An apology was hovering in her throat, but she couldn't say it. In the end, she coughed lightly and said in a gentle tone, "I was too agitated." Xiao was still immersed in the grief of losing the medicine. "My medicine." The ice beauty looked at him coldly. "I'll get someone to compensate you next time." Xiao turned around and glanced at her. This was originally brewed for her. He sighed deeply, and then remembered that he was still sitting on the ground. Then he connected the dots and realized that the culprit of all this was this innocent-looking girl in front of him. He wondered what exactly he had picked up and brought back. Just as he stood up, he felt an incomparable pain on his face. He touched it, and found that his nose was bleeding. He sighed again. Who did he offend? "I'll get someone to compensate you." The ice beauty spoke again. This time it was to compensate him for attacking her. Xiao rolled his eyes and pointed at his face. "I'm so handsome and confident. I look like a noble young master with an extraordinary background. Do you think I'm someone who lacks money? You can't judge a book by its cover." The ice beauty recalled that he had made a move on her twice and had a very bad impression of him. Xiao felt that he would be angered to death by her. He was a prince of a country, but in front of her he was nothing. How could he face the people of Sichuan? If he was given a mirror and saw his current appearance, he probably wouldn't think so. "Miss, why are you so heartless? In any case, I saved you. It's fine if you don't appreciate it, but first you slapped me and then punched me. Are you repaying kindness with enmity? Although you did save me, I didn't ask you for help. Everything was your own decision." Xiao was so angry that he laughed. The demeanor that he usually maintained cracked. "Miss, if I didn't help you, do you think you would still be lying here? Maybe you would have been caught by your enemies." Speaking of this, she was angry in her heart. If it weren't for him, she would have already met with her subordinates. How could she still be here listening to his nonsense? "Why don't you speak? Are you in the wrong?" Xiao saw that she just looked at him for a long time without speaking, and couldn't help but ask. The ice beauty felt that he was too talkative, and really didn't want to talk to him. Xiao saw that she didn't respond, so she laid down with her back facing him and covered herself with the quilt. She looked like she didn't want to talk to him. Xiao felt like he really wanted to find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Otherwise, how could he meet such a difficult person? After all, he was a man with a strong stomach. He couldn't argue with her, so he took a deep breath and kicked the pillar next to him before walking out. As soon as he walked out, he couldn't help but want to hug his leg. The kick just now was too painful. Chapter 1572. Just as he walked out, Xiao was stopped by Huling, who was waiting outside. He said that his royal brother had something to ask him. Xiao immediately suppressed the urge to hug his leg and acted as if nothing had happened. Did Big Brother say what it was? Hualing shook his head and looked like he wanted to say something. Second young master. What happened to your face? How did he get injured after not seeing him for a while? Xiao moved his face and hissed. It really did hurt, but he did not show it on his face. He calmly said, "It's nothing, I was stung by a bee. There's no helping it, there are too many insects here." What a joke. If people knew that he was beaten by a girl, his royal sister-in-law, and the others would laugh at him for a year. He was not that stupid. So it's like that. Hualing clearly did not believe him. Let's go. Don't make Big Brother wait too long. Xiao walked forward. Hualing followed behind. Looking at his back, he was confused. Why was Lord's leg also crippled? How strange. When they reached the hall, Xiao found that other than Higashio Motetsu and Tao Tao, everyone else was there. He could not help but walk in confusion. Little fan, how did you become like this? Father Chu, who had arrived at the city behind him, opened his mouth wide when he saw him. Xiao touched his face. The old man really touched a sore spot. These words successfully attracted everyone's attention to Xiao. Even Xiao Su could not help but ask, what happened? Xiao was too embarrassed to say it, and made up an excuse to brush it off. Father Chu's eyes widened. You hit a pillar when you're so old? Are you blind? That's right, he was blind. That was why he picked up a cold tigress that could hit people. Seeing that Xiao was really embarrassed, Chu Qingyan threw out the main topic of today's discussion to draw everyone's attention. Jin Xian just sent a letter saying that they have brought people close to the Tranquil Moon sect's stronghold in the Sun Clan. He told us to be careful because they might start fighting at any time. The Emperor Emeritus stroked his beard and said approvingly, Granddaughter-in-law, Jin Xian is very capable. In time he will definitely shine brightly. He's not like second brother, who can't do anything serious and always runs away at the last minute. Xiao had wanted to say that he had escaped a calamity, but he didn't expect his imperial grandfather to change the topic to him. Ever since his last conversation with his imperial grandfather had been finding fault with him in every aspect. Who exactly did he offend? Chu Qingyan felt that it was funny, but she still had to continue talking about serious matters. The Tranquil Moon sect should have already started to pay attention to this, so you guys should be careful not to expose your identities when you go out. But don't worry too much, just be yourself. This Tranquil Moon sect is really too arrogant. They didn't take Jin Xian seriously at the start. Now that 1/3 of their cities have been lost without a sound, they are starting to panic. It can be seen that those in power are not smart people. If it was in our Sichuan, they would have been dealt with long ago. Xiao shook his head, expressing his disdain. The Emperor Emeritus glanced at him, his gaze full of disdain. You say it as if a fool like you can kill someone with a slap. Xiao wanted to cry but had no tears. Imperial grandfather, can we still talk properly? Father Chu added fuel to the fire. Who asked you to abandon Jin Xian halfway and come back by yourself? No need to explain. We all know that you came back for the sake of coming back, you greedy and lazy little fan. Xiao wanted to spit out a mouthful of blood. Was it really because he was injured? Don't accuse me like this. He could only look at his imperial brother with tears in his eyes, hoping that his imperial brother would speak up for him. However, Xiao Su did speak up, but it was about another matter. What is the background of the girl you saved today? Xiao was stunned for a moment before recalling this incident. I saved this person on the road. She was chased by a group of people. After I saved her, she fainted. I haven't asked her about her identity yet. Xiao Su said indifferently. We are near the Tranquil Moon sect's stronghold, and it is a critical period now. You'd better not casually bring someone of unknown background back. Do things more carefully. Xiao felt that his imperial brother's words made sense, but he still wanted to defend himself. I don't think that girl is a bad person. She just has a cold temper. She didn't ask me to save her. I was the one who took the initiative to help. In the end, I also took the initiative to bring her back. I think there shouldn't be any problems. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. You really think so? Xiao thought for a moment. Although this person beat him up twice, he didn't look like a bad person. So he still nodded in the end. Xiao didn't say anything else. Instead, he instructed Hualing to tell Water Spirit to check on this girl's background. Imperial brother, is there anything else? Xiao asked. Xiao crossed his arms and looked at him. What do you want to do? Xiao rubbed his nose and said unnaturally. I just remembered that I knocked over that girl's medicine. I still need to brew it again. If I don't do it now, it will be late soon. These words caused everyone to look at him ambiguously. Chu Qingyan. This second brother seems to be overly attentive to that girl. Grand Emperor. This guy must have eaten the wrong medicine. Father Chu. Little Fan is a little abnormal today. I have to stay away from him. Ethereal. There's a situation. Qingyanlu. Agree. Hualing agree. The corner of Xiao's mouth twitched. Didn't he ask him to brew the medicine? Why did everyone have such an expression now? He was simply suffering in silence, unable to voice out his bitterness. Xiao waved his hand and magnanimously let him go. The Grand Emperor and Father Chu also agreed to go out to play. Mother Chu was worried and followed them. Only Xiao and his wife, Ethereal, Cheng Yanluo, and Hualing were left in the hall. Chu Qingyan asked, Can you tell how that woman's injuries were caused? Cheng Yanluo nodded. She was hit from the front. It's clear that the other party wanted to take her life directly. However, she was smart enough to avoid being hit in the vitals. There were a few sword wounds on her body, but they weren't serious. She fainted because she lost too much blood. Ethereal continued. When this subordinate checked her pulse, I found that this girl's inner strength wasn't low. However, she seemed to have consumed the cultivation dissipation powder before she was injured. Some of her inner strength dissipated. Perhaps that's why she was successfully ambushed. In just a few sentences, the Ice Beauty's injury was reconstructed. If she was present, she would definitely be amazed by the two's abilities. However, we're very ashamed that we couldn't find any other ailments in that girl's body. Qing Yanluo apologized. Chu Qingyan waved her hand and said, Medicine is broad and profound. It's normal to encounter things that you don't know. Then she added, however, if it's an ordinary dispute, it's not a problem to take this girl in. However, it's better to be safe than sorry. We still have to observe her for a while. Chu Qingyan's words were approved by everyone. Hualing, send people to guard the entire courtyard. If there's any movement, report it immediately. Xiao directly ordered. Yes. Hualing accepted the order. Chapter 1573. 2 hours later, Xiao returned to the Ice Beauty's room with a bowl of medicine in his hand. At this moment, Cheng Yanluo was in the room. Cheng Yanluo turned around and smiled at Xiao when she heard the commotion. I'm here to check on this lady's injuries. Xiao nodded. However, when his gaze landed on the person sitting on the bed, it was as if he was frozen in place. So this was what she looked like under the veil. Her black jade-like hair draped over her shoulders. Her slender eyebrows were like willows. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on him. Her skin was as fair as snow, and her lips were slightly red. It reminded him of a poem used by the ancients to describe beauties. Her skin was creamy and delicate, like the light of silk and the flexibility of reeds. What an ice-snow beauty. Her indifferent temperament made people feel that talking to her was an offense. When Xiao came in just now, the Ice Beauty had turned her head along with Cheng Yanluo. At this moment, she saw this person staring at her in a daze. It wasn't like the lustful gazes that people usually gave her, but more like pure admiration. However, she still didn't like being stared at like this, so she couldn't help but frown. Cheng Yanluo coughed a few times, and Xiao finally regained his composure. He scolded himself in his heart. He was, after all, a handsome wastrel who had seen all kinds of beauties in the world. How could he have been bewitched by this ice-cold woman? He must have hit her in the head as well, not only on her shoulder, but also on her head the last time. Xiao recovered and walked over. Is her injury all right? Cheng Yanluo nodded. The external injuries aren't serious. She'll be fine after some treatment. She stood up. Miss Sun, I won't disturb you from taking your medicine. If you need anything, you can call for me. Thank you, Miss Yanluo. The Ice Beauty nodded. After Cheng Yanluo left, Xiao Yao came to a realization. So your surname is Sunday? The ice beauty looked at him indifferently. Sunshui. That's my name. No wonder she was so cold. She was indeed like the snow in winter. My name is Xiao Yao. You can call me by my name. Xiao Yao casually pulled over a chair beside her bed and sat down. Then he handed the bowl of medicine to her and said, I brewed the medicine for you again. Drink it while it's hot. The ice beauty glanced at him, and then at the black medicine. She couldn't help but frown. Can I ask someone else to help me brew the medicine? Xiao Yao's face instantly darkened. It turned out that she was complaining that he didn't brew the medicine well. He snorted lightly. Then there's no other way. Everyone is busy right now. No one has time to brew medicine for you. What a joke. He couldn't possibly ask his sister-in-law to come over and help, right? His imperial brother was the first to come over and beat him up. He was a crazy wife protector. Moreover, he had spent so much time researching how to stay up late. If she didn't drink it, wouldn't all his efforts go to waste? The ice beauty looked at the medicine and could only compromise. She took it and drank it. As expected, it was too disgusting, but she still drank it expressionlessly. Xiao Yao was just about to take out the candy, but when he saw her drink it without frowning, he really wanted to stick out his thumb and give her a thumbs up. She was really a heroine. The ice beauty looked at the candy in his hand and raised her eyebrows. I don't eat sweets when taking medicine. Xiao Yao resentfully retracted his hand. This ice beauty was really hard to please. By the way, why are you being hunted down? Did you offend someone? He remembered the important matter. His imperial brother and the others had mentioned it before, so he should also ask. The ice beauty's hand that was about to put down the bowl paused. She turned to look at him. I choose not to answer. Oh, she was still a stubborn person. Xiao Yao calmed his emotions and tried to raise a smile. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. It's just that you, a girl, have provoked such a big enemy. I have good intentions. In case your injuries are not healed and your enemies come looking for you again, I won't be able to help you. So you can tell me what happened. If you owe someone money or met a bad person, maybe I can help you solve the problem. The ice beauty looked at him suspiciously. Xiao Yao felt her coldness and doubt, and immediately expressed his attitude. Don't worry. I saved you, so it's even more impossible for me to hurt you. That's hard to say. After all, you can't judge a book by its cover. The ice beauty said indifferently. If it wasn't because she was betrayed by her own people, she wouldn't have ended up like this. She couldn't even trust the people close to her, let alone this person who she had only met twice. The woman in front of him had an aura that kept people at 1,000 miles away. It wasn't that he didn't know how to behave. Perhaps the other party had something that was difficult to say, so he took a step back. Well, since you don't want to say, then I won't ask. By the way, there's something I don't know if you know. What's the matter? We found out that in addition to external and internal injuries, you also have an unknown illness. Xiao Yao repeated the words that Yin Luo had said in ethereal to her. When he spoke, he also paid attention to her expression. However, she was as cold as ever, so he couldn't tell what she was thinking. In fact, she was shocked in her heart. It was just that she hadn't smiled for a long time, so she was able to maintain her composure. She didn't expect that in such a small place, there would be such a skilled doctor. According to Xiao Yao's words, the woman who had treated her just now was one of them. She was so young that it was unbelievable. Her illness was also discovered by the clan's genius doctor 3 years ago. Unfortunately, there was no way to cure it until now. They could only temporarily suppress it. She didn't know if she could find the cure if she stayed here. Do your doctors have a way? Perhaps she was too calm, so Xiao Yao couldn't figure out what she was thinking at this time. He could only tell the truth. There's no way at the moment, but their medical skills are very good. They have saved many people who had one foot in the door of hell. So your illness, as long as they are given some time, they may be able to find the cure. At this time, she was injured and couldn't leave alone. After thinking about it, she could only agree to his suggestion to recuperate and see if they could find any clues about her illness. Seeing that her expression eased, Xiao Yao was relieved. However, he had a little plan in his heart. I picked you up. If you have any problems in the future, just come to me. The others have things to do, so they won't pay attention to you. Xiao deliberately left the others aside, showing that she was alone and helpless here. If she didn't rely on him, she might not be able to survive. Picked up? The ice beauty narrowed her eyes, revealing a dangerous aura. If she wasn't seriously injured, she could break his neck with one hand. You talk big. It's over, I said the wrong thing. Xiao was a little annoyed. He was usually eloquent, so why did he say something insincerely when it came to her? He coughed a few times. Well, I'll go see if there's anything to eat in the kitchen. I'll make some for you. After saying that, he slipped away as if there was oil on the soles of his feet. The ice beauty looked at his back and snorted. Chapter 1574. These few days, everything was calm and tranquil. Jin Xian continued to win. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su often stayed together to play chess, drink tea, and take care of the baby. Their days were very sweet and carefree. Cheng Yanluo and Ethereal stayed to study medicinal herbs and prescriptions from time to time. Their days were also very comfortable. Higashio Motetsu and Tao Tao often went out for a stroll and quarreled occasionally. Everyone was used to it. Chu Qingyan's parents were still very loving. The retired emperor often looked for Chu Qingyan's father to learn from each other and fight over his great-grandchildren. Life was also very pleasant. Only Xiao was very irritable these 2 days, as if he had eaten a firecracker. I told you not to move around because of your injury, but you didn't listen. Do you not take your body seriously? Xiao's voice could often be heard in the Ice Beauty's room. However, it wasn't a roar, but rather he was so angry that he couldn't help but lower his voice. He always felt that this Ice Beauty was like a pile of snow. A loud voice would shake her away. He was about to stomp his feet in anger, but the Ice Beauty still looked calm. I naturally take my body seriously, but you have no right to interfere with my freedom. Xiao took a deep breath. After calming his anger, he tried to speak in a normal tone. I know, but it's not suitable for you to go out now. I just want to sit at the door. Seeing that he couldn't persuade her, Xiao gave up. If he didn't agree, she would naturally do whatever she wanted when he wasn't around. Considering her safety, he finally compromised. All right, I'll arrange it for you. With that, he turned around and ordered people to move a table and chairs to the courtyard. Then he borrowed Jasper from his sister-in-law to help her. As soon as Jasper left, Chu Qingyan put down a chess piece. She supported her face with one hand and tilted her head slightly to play with the long hair that fell in front of her chest. She had a strange expression on her face. Big Ice Block, do you realize that second brother is too concerned about this girl of unknown origin? He's a bit out of line. Xiao Su pondered for a moment, then followed up with a chess piece. He's a warm-hearted person, and he's also someone who has tender feelings for women. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. He's your brother after all. Be careful that he doesn't hear you talking about him like that. So what if you hear me? Xiao Su smiled. She shook her head. As expected, kind people get bullied. Poor Xiao. Don't you think that someone else is bullying him? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Chu Qingyan thought for a moment, and suddenly understood. Then do you think he has a chance with this Ice Beauty? Xiao Su sneered. It's a scene where you get bullied. Are you planning to leave him in the lurch? She leaned over to look at him, a sly glint in her eyes. Xiao Su looked into her eyes and reached out to brush away the strands of hair in front of her forehead. He smiled lightly. I think he's immersed in the land of gentleness and is enjoying himself. Why would he need us to save him? The big ice cube was using his beauty to seduce her again. She had to remain calm and not fall into his trap so easily. But I don't think this is a land of gentleness, but a land of ice and snow. Xiao Su shook his head. You're not a fish. How can you know the joy of a fish? Oh, do you understand? Or? Chu Qingyan suddenly narrowed her eyes. I think that lady is as beautiful as a flower, and has a generous bearing. Do you think that I'm old and not as beautiful as I used to be? Xiao Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Where did this little fellow come up with such a conclusion? He had never seen what that lady looked like, but it was a rare sight to see this little fellow jealous. It was really a pleasant surprise. He reached out to lift her up and hold her on his lap. Her petite body fit perfectly in his embrace. He held her shoulders and said in a magnetic and low voice, "Do you have so little confidence in yourself?" Just a moment ago, he was saying those words, but now he was hugging her. She didn't know who had spoiled him. Oh no, she had spoiled him. Confidence is not something you have, but something you both build. She puffed out her cheeks. You know that everyone else in front of me looks the same whether they're round or flat, but only you are the most unique in my eyes. In this world, there is no one else that I like more than you. You're more stunning. Xiao pinched her nose and said with a chuckle, but every word came from the bottom of his heart. Chu Qingyan felt that she was thinking too much. The person in front of her still doted on her as before, but she didn't know why. Recently she just wanted to get angry. Her mood was sometimes anxious and sometimes irritable. She suddenly felt that she couldn't recognize herself. So she gave up and said, "Isn't there a saying that feelings are like tea? The longer it is brewed, the weaker it becomes. We've known each other for at least 7 years. Do you know the 7-year itch between husband and wife? Because of the dull rules of love or marriage, you feel bored and have reached the stage of burnout. It's very likely that you're tired of me now, but you just haven't noticed it yet." Xiao had never seen her so dejected before. He was a little surprised. Their life was not very harmonious recently, so how could this little fellow have such a misunderstanding about him? Xiao suddenly realized the seriousness of the matter. It was clearly fine just now, so why was the little fellow so dejected? He felt that if this matter was not resolved immediately, it would have a certain impact on their lives. He swept away his previous expression and became very serious. He put his hands on her shoulders, making her look at him, and said in a serious tone, I don't understand the 7-year itch you're talking about, and I don't want to know. In my opinion, the feelings between you and me are not like tea, which will fade with the passage of time. On the contrary, I feel that time is precipitating our feelings, just like wine, which will become mellow and rich with time. Wine. She looked back at him deeply. Is that right? It's wine and not tea? Xiao seemed to have seen through her thoughts, and his voice became gentle. Yes, it's wine. I've never liked to use anything to describe the feelings between us, but since you have to use something to prove it, I think it's the most appropriate. He pulled her back into his embrace. I will love you for the rest of my life, care for you, and use the rest of my life to accompany you, not letting you suffer the slightest bit of harm. What we can do now is to live every day well, and not waste the rest of our lives. This is the best way for us to stay together. Holding hands, growing old together, not wasting a single moment. Even if they did nothing, quietly staring at each other, was the interpretation of love. Chu Qingyan suddenly thought it through. She felt that she was being too unreasonable. She clearly knew what he was thinking, yet she still wanted him to make promises again and again. To think that he was willing to accompany her time and time again. She was extremely moved. She wanted to say something to him, but suddenly felt her stomach churning. I want to vomit. Xiao had just made a passionate confession, and the little fellow had to say that she wanted to vomit. Xiao's entire face darkened. However, the little fellow really did vomit. Chapter 1575. As soon as Chu Qingyan vomited, Xiao panicked. He quickly held her waist and patted her back. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? After vomiting for a while, Chu Qingyan leaned into his arms. Her face was pale. She shook her head. Don't worry, I'm fine. Maybe I ate something wrong today or caught a cold in my stomach. I'll be fine after drinking some hot water. As soon as she said that, her stomach churned again. She couldn't care less about comforting Big Ice Cube, who was panicking because of her, and started vomiting again. Xiao didn't dare to rest assured. He asked someone to send ethereal and yanluo to her while he helped her up and checked her pulse. 2 years ago, when she was pregnant with Kong'an, he had learned a few pulse reading skills from ethereal to ensure that both mother and son were safe. He didn't expect that it would come in handy today. He wanted to see what was wrong with her. Ethereal and the others hadn't arrived yet, but Chu Qingyan obeyed him and extended her hand to him. She looked like she had nothing left to live for. Xiao Su placed his fingers on her wrist and tried to calm down. However, when he felt the fluctuation of her pulse, he was stunned. He turned to look at the little one in disbelief. Chu Qingyan had no strength in her body. She seemed to have vomited everything in her stomach and was now recovering. Seeing his reaction, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that she had some incurable disease? Big Ice Cube, what's wrong with me? Actually, she wanted to ask him what was wrong. Xiao Su didn't answer her. Instead, he checked her pulse again. This time, he was more careful than before. Chu Qingyan looked at the sweat dripping from his forehead and her heart tightened. However, she forced herself to support herself and took out a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. She pretended to be calm and comforted him. It's okay. If there's really a problem, there's still Ethereal and Yanluo. Don't worry. Yes, there's still Ethereal and Yanluo. I have to let them see if you're pregnant again. Why aren't they here yet? Xiao Su immediately looked at the door. What? He had a body. She had already prepared herself for some incurable disease, but Big Ice Cube's words completely stunned her. She subconsciously grabbed his arm and asked foolishly, I have a body? Big Ice Cube, are you saying that I'm pregnant? Xiao Su held her hand and tried to calm down, but he could not hide the surprise in his eyes. I'm not sure. I have to wait for Ethereal and the others to see it. The two of them looked at each other with joy in their eyes. Even if it was a misdiagnosis, it was just an empty joy. There would be plenty of chances in the future. However, if it was diagnosed, then in their lives, another crystallization of love would be born, and they would have another adorable baby. Therefore, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su had the same thought. Why isn't he here yet? Ethereal and Cheng Yanluo were in the pharmacy, discussing medical books. When Hualing called for help, they thought that something big had happened. They threw down their books and rushed over without stopping. When they arrived at the courtyard, they saw Chu Qingyan's ghastly pale face. They were shocked and hurriedly put their hands on her. Although they did not know why the two of them were looking at them with shining eyes, they had the same thought. Please don't let anything happen to this little ancestor. Otherwise, this cold-faced Yama might tear this place down. However, after the two of them calmed down and took her pulse, their eyes lit up at the same time. They looked at each other, then at Chu Qingyan. They stood up tacitly and cupped their hands to congratulate the two soon-to-be parents. Congratulations, Your Highness. The little princess consort Qingyan is pregnant. When the Emperor Emeritus, Father Chu, and Mother Chu heard that Chu Qingyan was unwell, Xiao Su hurriedly called Ethereal and Yanluo over. Thinking that something big had happened, they immediately rushed over. Coincidentally, when they reached the entrance of the courtyard, they heard the two of them congratulating each other. Everyone was stunned at first, but when they reacted, they were simply ecstatic. The Emperor Emeritus. I'm going to be a great-grandfather again? Good, good, good. Father Chu. I'm going to have a grandson again? Good, good, good. Mother Chu. I'm going to be a grandmother again? Good, good, good. Little Kong, who had followed them over, was at a loss. What was a pregnancy? Was it candy? Once his guess was confirmed, Xiao Su felt that the ground under his feet was as light as cotton. Chu Qingyan grabbed his sleeve with both hands and leaned into his embrace, crying tears of joy. Big Ice Cube, Kong is going to have a younger brother or sister. Xiao Su caressed her head, his eyes slightly moist. Yes, we're going to have a child again. In the past, before he met the little fellow, he had always thought that he would be alone for the rest of his life. He had never thought that one day, he would have a lover and have many children. He hugged the treasure of his life and thanked the gift of life once again. At this moment, little Kong walked past the Emperor Emeritus and the others with his short legs and walked in front of his parents. When he saw that his mother's face was not as rosy as before, he asked his father worriedly, Is mother sick? Xiao Su carried him up and placed him on his knees, his voice gentle as he said, Your mother isn't sick, but let me tell you a piece of good news. You're going to be an older brother in the future. Older brother? Little Kong's eyes lit up like the stars at night, sparkling. Chu Qingyan smiled and nodded. Yes, you'll have a younger brother or sister next year. Little Onkong was so happy that he stomped his feet and spun around on the spot, looking extremely adorable. Then he asked, "Why can't I see it next year? Can't I see it now?" Chu Qingyan kissed little Onkong's cheek, her face full of love. "That's because your younger brother or sister is still in mother's stomach. You'll have to wait a few months for it to be ready before it can be born." Little Onkong nodded as if he understood, then said happily, "Although I'll have to wait for a long time, I'm willing to wait for it to come out." With that, little Onkong placed his hand on his mother's stomach, and his expression became serious. "You have to be obedient inside. Older brother will wait for you to come out. Older brother will give you toys to play with, and take you out to see the mountains and rivers. You have to come out early." Hearing her son speak so seriously, she was worried that little Onkong would not be able to accept the existence of this child. She did not expect him to be so sensible. He was clearly only a 2-year-old child. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su looked at each other, their hands clasped, and saw the gratification in each other's eyes. Although they were not ready to welcome a new life, they were extremely happy and looked forward to the arrival of this new life. "Looks like I'll have to start preparing for the little princess consort's next 9 months again," Ethereal said to his wife. Qing Yanluo smiled. "I'll accompany you this time. Speaking of which, when are we going to have a child too?" Ethereal looked at her master's sweet family of 3, and was a little tempted. Qing Yanluo snorted. "I'll see how hard you work." Ethereal's eyes lit up when she heard that. "Then I'll work hard tonight." Cheng Yanluo was instantly speechless. She did not seem to mean that. Chapter 1576. Just as Xiao Yao helped the Ice Beauty out, Jasper was called away again, saying that Imperial sister-in-law was pregnant. Xiao Yao clapped his hands in surprise. "I'm going to be an uncle again." The Ice Beauty was surprised to see him so infatuated. This guy didn't look like someone who liked children, so why was he so happy when he heard the news? "Aren't you going to congratulate her?" Her subtext was to make him disappear from her sight. She wanted to bask in the sun in peace. However, Xiao Yao didn't catch her hint, and thought that she was concerned about him. He thought that his efforts these past few days weren't in vain, so he straightened his voice and said, "I'll go after you enter the house. Right now my sister-in-law's place must be packed with people, so it's not my turn to serve tea." The Ice Beauty was slightly dazed by his words. She had seen Chu Qingyan a few times, and she was very beautiful. It could be said that she had never seen anyone more beautiful than Chu Qingyan in her entire life. What was rare was that Chu Qingyan's personality was straightforward and gentle, and she was not pretentious. She was very easy to get along with, and it was very comfortable to talk to her. It was a pity that this lady had a very clingy husband. Every time Chu Qingyan spoke to Chu Qingyan, her husband would send someone to fetch her. Until now, Chu Qingyan had not spoken much to Chu Qingyan. Listening to Xiao Yao's words, this Chu Qingyan was very doted on in their family. The Ice Beauty couldn't help but feel envious. However, this envy only lasted for a short period of time, because the person in front of her started to act stupid again. "Do you think sister-in-law is pregnant with a boy or a girl this time?" The Ice Beauty was too lazy to even look at him. "We'll know after 10 months of pregnancy." Her subtext was, "You idiot, how could I know?" However, Xiao Yao still didn't catch her hidden meaning. He rubbed his chin and began to look forward. "If it's a boy, I'll definitely teach him how to ride a horse, shoot a horse and martial arts. If it's a girl, I'll definitely hold her in my hands and dote on her. After all, children are so cute, just like in Kong." The Ice Beauty looked at him with some surprise. It was strange that someone like him, who lived like a big red flower that attracted bees and butterflies, would care so much about children. She didn't want to talk to him at first, but in the end she said, "Women can also ride horses, shoot arrows and practice martial arts. They won't be worse than men." Xiao Yao nodded, then shook his head. He leaned against the pillar, chewing on a piece of grass, and smiled. "Although it's good for girls to learn so much, I hope that they can grow up safely and healthily, and be loved like little princesses. They don't need to care about the ugliness and hardships in the world, because someone will help them block it." They only need to be responsible for happiness and laughter. When he said this, Xiao thought of his little sister who was killed as soon as she was born. That snow-white and tender little princess was so cruelly taken away from him that he didn't even have time to hug her. His eyes were slightly hot, and then he quickly blinked, hiding the sadness in his eyes. When the Ice Beauty heard his words, she was completely shaken, because what he said was something she had never heard before, and had never received before. No one would ever tell her these things. They would only tell her that she had to be well educated, not so that she could recite poems, but so that she would not be looked down upon. She had to learn martial arts, not so that she could protect her people, but so that she could protect herself at critical moments. She had to learn how to know people well, not so that she could protect her people, but so that she would not let others destroy her family business. It had always been an extravagant hope for her to grow up safely and healthily. No one knew how difficult it was for her to reach this step, or how much ugliness she had experienced. They only saw her in bright clothes and holding high power. Who could help her block those ugliness and hardships? Didn't she have to crawl over step by herself? Happiness and laughter, what was that? Was it as sweet as candy? But she didn't need it. Only, there were still some different emotions in her heart. She looked at the person who was leaning against the pillar with his arms crossed. His eyes were flowing with a faint sadness, but his smile was warm. The sunlight poured down on his body, and his navy blue robe jumped with a circle of light, as if it was explaining the word warm. Unlike his usual sloppy appearance, this scene was engraved in her memory, leaving a trace. Xiao put away his emotions, and when he turned his head, he saw the Ice Beauty staring at him. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. Could it be that the Ice Beauty finally saw his handsome appearance? However, he wasn't happy for long. The Ice Beauty seemed to have noticed his gaze. She looked at him coldly, and then withdrew her gaze, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, why are you always so cold?" Xiao finally couldn't help but ask the question that had been in his heart for the past few days. The Ice Beauty frowned. "What do you mean by that?" Xiao looked at her condescendingly, but he didn't feel any superiority from this height. Instead, he felt that this woman's temperament was outstanding, and her aura was on par with his. He couldn't help but give up the idea of suppressing her in terms of height. He hugged his shoulders and spoke out his feelings. "When I talk to you, you always ignore me. If others don't ask, you never take the initiative to speak. Your expression is cold, and your words don't fluctuate. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, it would be hard to believe that you're really a teenage girl. You always have such a cold face. Don't you think life is boring? Is that so? No one has ever dared to say that to me." The Ice Beauty's voice was already a little cold. Her cold tone made Xiao a little unhappy, and he spoke without thinking. "I really don't know what kind of environment you grew up in. Usually at your age, little girls like you love flowers and plants, and love to dress up. You're really an anomaly." Xiao's unintentional words were like a sharp knife stabbing into her heart. The Ice Beauty's expression instantly froze. "You're nobody to me. How dare you meddle in my affairs?" This time, Xiao finally knew that he had stepped on a minefield, but he couldn't bring himself to lower his face and apologize. Seeing that she was really angry, he was a little irritated. He racked his brains and said stiffly, "Indeed, I'm nobody to you, but you were saved by me. I should protect you while you're recuperating. Yen Luo and the others said that a good mood is good for your recuperation. You should smile more, and don't keep a straight face all day. This way, your wounds will heal more easily." The Ice Beauty's tone was angry. "If you didn't appear in front of me, perhaps my body would recover faster." Xiao opened his mouth to say something, but he was defeated by her cold gaze. In the end, he bowed his head and said, "I'll go boil some medicine for you." Then he left without looking back. The Ice Beauty looked at his receding figure. She knew that her words were too harsh, but she couldn't control herself. She slowly clenched her fists. Anomaly? This word had been everywhere since she was a child. Yes, she was an anomaly. She was forced to grow up, to become stronger. She couldn't resist, so what could she do? Chapter 1577. When Higashio Motetsu found out that his little lass was pregnant, it was when he came back in the afternoon. When he and Tao Tao entered the door while arguing, he saw Hualing hurriedly walking towards them with a face full of joy. He casually asked him where he was going. Hualing could not hide his smile as he told him that his little princess consort was pregnant again, so he had to go out to buy some things. When he received this news, Higashio Motetsu was completely stunned on the spot. He did not even notice that Hualing had left. When the little lass gave birth to Xiao and Kong, he was not there and missed it. Now that he finally did not miss it, he felt a kind of joy surge from the bottom of his heart. Tao Tao, who was standing on the side, saw the change in his expression. She thought that he could not accept his beloved woman giving birth to another person's child, so her mood instantly fell. Although she was very happy for Qingyan, Higashio Motetsu's reaction made her heart fall to the bottom of the valley. Could it be that she still could not win his heart after working so hard? Higashio Motetsu was too happy and did not notice Tao Tao's low mood. He strode towards Chu Qingyan's courtyard, wanting to congratulate her on this good news. And Tao Tao, who had been ignored by him, looked at his back as her emotions became even more complicated. After waiting for a long time, he did not turn back even when he disappeared around the corner. He also did not notice that she had been left behind. Only then did she curl her lips and reveal a self-deprecating smile before following after him. Actually, Tao Tao had misunderstood him. To Higashio Motetsu, he was already used to her following after him. He thought that she would follow after him like every time in the past. When Higashio Motetsu entered the door, he saw that the courtyard was completely surrounded. He could not help but find it funny. It looked like he had come too late. Little Ting, let me tell you a piece of good news. I'm going to be a grandfather again. Father Chu's sharp eyes saw him and immediately jumped over, his tone full of bragging. He smiled and said, "Yes, congratulations, old master." As soon as Tao Tao entered the door, she saw him smiling so happily. Her heart ached. He would only be so kind to the people around Qingyan. This was the so-called love me, love my dog. There were too many people, and Chu Qingyan had vomited a few times before. Although her mental state was fine, everyone felt sorry for her and asked about her well-being. Higashio Motetsu just stood by and watched. He didn't take the initiative to greet her. He felt that as a friend, he was really satisfied to be able to witness her happiness. Tao Tao stood at the side and looked at him. Looking at Qingyan, her heart was filled with bitterness. He must be in great pain right now. He couldn't love her, but he couldn't let her go. Higashio Motetsu keenly felt that someone was looking at him. He turned his head and caught Tao Tao's pitiful gaze. He couldn't help but frown. What the hell was this little witch thinking? With that thought in mind, Higashio Motetsu walked over and knocked a chestnut on her head. Come back to your senses. What's with that look? Tao Tao didn't feel embarrassed about being caught. Although she felt terrible, she still cared about his feelings. Are you okay? He felt strange. What can happen to me? Oh right, come out with me. Tao Tao thought that he was forcing a smile. She pursed her lips as if she was going all out. Okay, I'll drink with you. He looked at her suspiciously. Finally, he raised his hand and placed it on her forehead. He muttered, "You don't have a fever. Why are you talking nonsense?" Tao Tao pulled his hand down forcefully. She was unhappy. She had put down her discomfort to drink with him. He thought that she was confused from the fever. Just as she was about to retaliate, she heard him say, "Why are you drinking? Let's go out and buy something." He ignored her and strode out of the courtyard. Tao Tao blinked. Could it be that he was in a bad mood and wanted to vent his anger through shopping? That should be it. Tao Tao immediately chased after him. Chu Qingyan watched the figures leave one after the other through the crowd. She couldn't help but smile. What's wrong? Xiao noticed her smile and asked. He saw his wife winking at him mysteriously. There's something going on between Dongting and Tao Tao. Oh, Xiao raised his eyebrows and didn't comment. Although she was far away and didn't know what they were talking about, from Dongting's posture and the way he spoke to Tao Tao, he was no longer as cold and indifferent as before. This was already a huge improvement. However, Dongting was like an unruly wind. If Tao Tao wanted to catch him, she would have to put in more effort. Time was like flowing water, passing by quickly, especially at the end of autumn and the beginning of winter, when the days were long and the nights were short. It made people feel that time passed quickly. On this day, Chu Qingyan drank the nourishing soup that Jasper sent over. She persuaded Big Ice Cube to do something serious and not watch over her all day. In the end, he took his son to the study to teach him how to write. Chu Qingyan finally felt peaceful. Ever since they found out that she was pregnant, the whole family had been mobilized. She felt like a rare animal that was firmly protected. She couldn't stand it. Once she was free, she thought of some unusual things such as Xiao. Previously, he had been asking her for advice. She said that the ice beauty was similar to her big ice block in that they didn't talk or smile. So he wanted to know how she usually interacted with the big ice block. She wanted to teach him how to chat with the ice beauty and expand the topic. She felt that this second brother and the ice beauty he talked about were very interesting, so she taught him some methods. She hadn't seen him recently, so she didn't know if the methods worked. She thought for a while and asked Jasper. Jasper replied, "These few days, second young master didn't go to Miss Sun's room. However, second young master personally took care of Miss Sun's 3 meals and medicine." Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. What happened to the two of them? Were they throwing a tantrum? But it was very likely that second young master was having a one-sided Cold War. It had to be said that Chu Qingyan's guess was very accurate. At this time, the ice beauty was sitting in the courtyard basking in the sun, with a servant girl beside her. Previously, that fellow said that there was no one to serve her. He must have been lying to her. This fellow didn't speak much truth. However, he was really unyielding. For a few days, he really didn't appear in front of her again. She was a little unaccustomed to it. Usually, this person would guard her bed when she opened her eyes. If he had nothing to do, he would hang around in front of her and act stupid from time to time. Now it was other people who came to deliver medicine and food to her. Just because she said a few words, he really didn't come. She felt that this person was too vengeful. However, she also admitted that her words at that time were too harsh. However, she didn't regret it. No one could step on her wound and preach to her. At that time, there was still something wrong in her heart. She couldn't figure it out. In the end, she attributed it to the lack of mental strength after the injury. However, the scenery outside lost its attraction to her. Just as she was about to let someone help her in, there was another person in the corridor. "How is Miss Sun's body recovering?" She raised her head. It was Chu Qingyan, that stunningly beautiful woman. Chapter 1578. Chu Qingyan's appearance came as a surprise to the ice beauty. However, Chu Qingyan's expressionless face did not look any different. "Thank you for your concern, Madam Xiao. My body is much better now. I can walk slowly now." This answer was in line with the rules. There was no deliberate closeness or alienation. It was just right. However, it was also this attitude that made Chu Qingyan curious about this girl of unknown origin. This girl's background was definitely not low. Her every movement carried the nobility of a noble. Looking at her appearance, she should have been pampered. However, looking at her hands, there were traces of years of use of weapons. She was not as delicate as ordinary girls. It was hard to imagine what kind of environment this girl was born in for her to be able to combine these contradictions together. When Chu Qingyan came over, someone had already brought a chair over. She sat down and asked Jasper to put the specially made pastry box on the small table. "Try it. It's a new style that the kitchen has developed." The ice beauty originally had no appetite. However, when the box was opened, she saw that the pastries inside were different from the ones she usually saw. They were beautiful and fragrant. She couldn't help but feel a little hungry. She didn't stand on ceremony and nodded her head and took a piece. When Chu Qingyan saw her eating, she first took a small bite. She felt that it was good and continued to eat in small bites. Her posture was very elegant. Even though it was obvious that she liked it very much, she only ate 2 small pieces and stopped. It was obvious that she was well educated. Chu Qingyan secretly nodded in her heart. "I don't know where Miss Sun came from and who else is in your family. You have suffered such a serious injury this time. Do you need to inform your family? Chu Qingyan said with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry to ask so much. I'm just afraid that your family will be worried if they don't have news of you. Sun Shui shook her head. It's all right. I came from US City. My parents passed away early, so there's no need to inform my family. Thank you for your concern, Madam Xiao. I'm sorry to have disturbed you recently. Once I've recovered, I'll inform my friends to come and pick me up. At that time, I'll reward you for saving my life and taking me in. The Ice Beauty didn't think much and answered directly. However, Chu Qingyan thought that the other party misunderstood and wanted to drive her away. She couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. She didn't come here for this purpose. She hurriedly said, Miss Sun, this is just a small matter. You don't have to take it to heart. Rest assured and recuperate here. Moreover, we like to make friends very much. I think Miss Sun is very suitable for me and I really want to make friends with you. So there's no need for any reward. Moreover, we welcome you to stay here for a while. The Ice Beauty felt that she was too enthusiastic. After seeing the people around Xiao, perhaps only Chu Qingyan, Xiao and Cheng Yanluo were friendly to her. The others, such as Xiao Su, were very cold, as if no one could enter his eyes. However, he doted on his wife very much. On the other hand, Ethereal didn't meet many people. The few times they met, they were very distant. Therefore, she didn't dare to agree with Chu Qingyan's words. However, she was still very envious because there was always a lingering warmth when these people were together. Although it couldn't be seen, it made people feel warm and comfortable at all times. This was something she had never enjoyed before. Thank you. She sincerely thanked her. You're too polite. Chu Qingyan thought for a moment and said seriously, Miss Sun, I have a question that I want to ask you. Mrs. Xiao, please ask. Are you so polite to everyone? This was the answer she had been wanting to know in her heart these days, because she always felt that this Miss Sun Shui seemed to be in a different world from them. She could see her, but she couldn't touch her. This question made the Ice Beauty a little confused. Isn't this how people get along with each other? This ignorant look suddenly made Chu Qingyan feel that this girl was not as mature and steady as she looked on the surface. She was a little cute. How should I put it? There are several types of interactions between people. In my opinion, the first type is strangers, which you can ignore or pay attention to. The second type is people who you don't have a deep relationship with, which you can nod your head at. The last type is close friends who can open their hearts to each other. I think that you usually treat people like strangers, so we can be considered the second type. The Ice Beauty was slightly surprised. She felt that Chu Qingyan was right. It was just that she had always been like this. My way of dealing with people has been cultivated since I was a child. The people around me taught me not to be too close to others, so there may be something wrong. Please forgive me, Mrs. Xiao. It was rare to see such a strict guard against others. However, Chu Qingyan didn't probe further. After all, everyone had their own secrets. She didn't have the qualifications nor the position to pry. Chu Qingyan smiled and said, Miss Sun is too serious. It's just that I really want to make friends with you. That's why I asked. It should be me who asks you not to take offense. For some reason, the Ice Beauty felt that the woman in front of her was sincere. She felt that if she wasn't sincere, she wouldn't have said so much. She couldn't help but remove the guard in her heart. I'm honored. Looking at her serious face, as if she was talking about an important matter, Chu Qingyan smiled brightly. Miss Sun, why do you always give me the feeling that you don't smile? At the age of a flower, you should smile more. Wantonly, this is youth, isn't it? The Ice Beauty was stunned. Smile. Since she was young, the people around her had told her not to smile easily. She had to be serious and dignified. Otherwise, she was young and didn't have the deterrent power of a person in power. Therefore, she had pretended to be mature since she was young in order to not let others look down on her. But now, someone told her that at the age of a flower, she should smile more. No one had ever said this to her before. It gave her a strange and wonderful feeling. Maybe it's my nature. She didn't know how to answer this sincere girl, so she could only say perfunctorily, Maybe it was her mission that didn't allow her to live like a normal woman. You should smile more in the future. You're so beautiful. If you can smile, who knows how many men and women, old and young, will be charmed by you. Chu Qingyan joked. The Ice Beauty thought seriously and said, then I'd better choose to maintain the status quo. Why? I don't like too many people surrounding me. If they really fall, I'll have to find a doctor for them. It's too troublesome. Chu Qingyan chuckled. These words were really honest. She liked this girl who wore a poker face and told jokes seriously more and more. After the two talked for a while, Chu Qingyan blinked and asked knowingly, oh right, we've been sitting here for so long. Why haven't I seen Xiao Yao? Isn't he usually here? Just as she said this, the Ice Beauty was clearly stunned. Chapter 1579. The Ice Beauty's reaction did not escape the eyes of Chu Qingyan, who had been paying attention to her. Chu Qingyan snickered in her heart. It seemed that this lady was not completely unresponsive to Xiao Yao. If she was prepared, she could come in handy. The Ice Beauty regained her senses and replied indifferently, maybe he's busy with something. Chu Qingyan rubbed her chin, looking confused. Is that so? But I heard from Jasper that Xiao Yao has been locking himself in his room for the past 2 days. Other than brewing medicine for you on time, he hasn't been seen at all. I don't know what's going on. The Ice Beauty's attention was only on the 2 words brewing medicine. She frowned slightly. You mean to say that the recent medicine was also brewed by him? Chu Qingyan thought that she was touched, and immediately nodded. However, the Ice Beauty muttered, no wonder the medicine is still so disgusting. I thought it was supposed to taste like this. Chu Qingyan's hearing was very good. After hearing this, she couldn't help but want to laugh. So this was Xiao Yao's impression in her heart. It was too funny. However, she still had to say that Xiao Yao was pitiful. Speaking of brewing medicine, this is the first time he's brewed it for someone. In the past, his family was rich and he didn't have to worry about food and clothing. He had never done anything himself. It seems that he's still very concerned about you. Every time he brewed medicine, he wouldn't leave it behind. I heard that he gave it to someone else to do. So he was worried, so he did it himself. Chu Qingyan deliberately said this in order to give this second brother more points in front of the Ice Beauty. However, these were all true. In the beginning, everyone wanted to mess with Xiao Yao, so they asked him to brew the medicine himself. Later on, they assigned someone to him, but he refused. It was also because of this that Chu Qingyan began to pay attention to the interaction between the two. Hearing this, the Ice Beauty nodded in agreement. No wonder he doesn't know how to take care of people. He's so clumsy no matter what he does. Perhaps it was because Chu Qingyan had a natural affinity. The Ice Beauty naturally said what was in her heart. Chu Qingyan snickered in her heart. Poor second brother, you've worked so hard to do so much, but in front of the Ice Beauty, you've become clumsy. However, she heard the Ice Beauty add in a low voice. But it's not easy for a young master to do this. Although these words were very objective and emotionless, in Chu Qingyan's opinion, it was already very difficult for the Ice Beauty to say these words. It seemed that her second brother's efforts were still somewhat useful. Yet it's really not easy. It's rare to see him settle down and do things that he wouldn't normally be able to do. Chu Qingyan paused, then looked up at the person in front of her and asked casually, Miss Sun, what do you think of Xiao Ran? These words, if placed in modern times, would definitely feel very familiar to the men and women of marriageable age who had been urged to get married. This was because every time they returned home, their parents, brothers, and aunts would chase after them and ask, what do you think of someone? If you said it was okay, then the next sentence would be, then you can give it a try. Maybe it's suitable. If you said that you didn't feel anything, then the next sentence would be, you can give it a try. However, the Ice Beauty had never experienced these things in modern times, and no one would talk to her about these things, so she really thought about this question seriously. Seeing her deep in thought, Chu Qingyan felt that this lady had a very desirable temperament, and that was seriousness. No matter what she did, she was very serious, which was really rare. He talks too much and can't be quiet, but his temperament is still okay. This was the Ice Beauty's final conclusion. Actually, in her opinion, Xiao was very contradictory. It should be referring to her opinion of him being very contradictory. If she said that he wasn't serious, then he was very serious in front of serious matters. If he didn't do things properly, then it depended on what the matter was. Therefore, she couldn't say anything and could only pick out a few problems to talk about. Chu Qingyan could see that her evaluation was somewhat reserved, but it wasn't that she didn't want to talk about it. Perhaps she herself couldn't figure it out. From the looks of it, the Ice Beauty didn't have any good feelings for her second brother. It could only be that she went from hating him to not hating him. Chu Qingyan said softly, "Yes, he is a very active person. Maybe it's because he suffered too much in the past that he tried hard to make his life more interesting and not so dull." Bitter? The Ice Beauty was a little surprised. In her opinion, a person like him who lived a carefree life also had a time when he suffered? It was simply unbelievable. Being curious about a person was the beginning of feelings. Chu Qingyan's eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness, but it quickly disappeared. She nodded. "You can't tell, right? You must be thinking that a rich family's son like him definitely hasn't suffered much. It's just that you can't just look at the surface of people. Sometimes, what people want to see is just a side that they want others to see. As for the real things, they need time and energy to slowly unearth them. I can only say this much about Xiao. After all, I'm only his sister-in-law, so it's not good for me to reveal too much. But if you want to know, you can ask him himself." Just as Chu Qingyan finished speaking, she saw her big ice block walking towards her. He was clearly walking slowly, but in the blink of an eye, he was in front of her. "I've brewed the medicine for you. Go back and drink it while it's hot." Xiao held her hand and helped her up. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. "Why did you brew it yourself?" "I don't feel at ease leaving it to others." Xiao nodded slightly to the Ice Beauty, then held his wife's hand and left. The Ice Beauty was originally shocked by Chu Qingyan's words, but when she heard the conversation between the two, her heart trembled slightly. Suddenly, a subtle change occurred in her heart. It was a little complicated, but she couldn't figure it out. She sat from noon until sunset, but she couldn't understand. Or rather, she couldn't figure out Xiao. Actually, what kind of person Xiao was had nothing to do with her. But she had a problem in her heart, so she had to analyze it clearly. Otherwise, she would feel uncomfortable. At this time, the maid had prepared dinner and invited her back to her room for dinner. She raised her eyebrows slightly, suddenly wanting to see Xiao. "Leave it." An hour later, the maid brought the medicinal soup. She still said, "Leave it." 2 hours later, someone couldn't sit still anymore. Xiao hurriedly pushed open the door to her room with a look of anger on his face. His gaze swept across the untouched dishes on the table, as well as the medicine that had already lost its temperature. Finally, his gaze landed on the woman who was sitting upright on the chair with an indifferent expression. He had a feeling of resentment towards iron for not becoming steel. He walked in front of her, restraining his anger, and said, "Why didn't you eat dinner? It doesn't look appetizing." He continued to take a deep breath. "Then why didn't you drink the medicine? It doesn't look appetizing either." Xiao. What she said made so much sense that I actually couldn't refute it. Chapter 1580. The maidservant at the side watched in fear. She felt that it was very likely that the two of them would fight at the slightest disagreement. She was already prepared to run for help. However, the next scene made the maidservant so dumbstruck that she even forgot to retract her leg. Xiao took a deep breath and the anger on his face dissipated in an instant. He recovered his usual carefree and elegant demeanor. With a clear smile in his eyes, he said gently to the Ice Beauty, "Since the food doesn't suit your taste, I'll get the kitchen to make it again. Tell the servants what you like. As for the medicine, I'll make another bowl for you." In his words and actions, there was a gentleness and pampering that even Xiao himself didn't notice. She originally thought that this fool would explode in front of her like a bomb, but she didn't expect that it would become like this in the blink of an eye. It was as if she wasn't making things difficult for him just now, but was discussing with him what to eat tonight. Before the ice beauty could react, Xiao had already turned around and instructed the maidservant. Then he really left to make the medicine. Hey you! The ice beauty subconsciously called out to him. Xiao turned around and looked at her. He corrected her. Didn't I emphasize to you many times that my name isn't Hey? I have a name. After saying that, he didn't say anything else and quickly walked out of the door. This troublemaker hadn't taken her medicine for more than 2 hours. He had to hurry and make it. The ice beauty looked at his departing figure with a strange feeling in her heart. Her actions this afternoon were intentional. It was also the first time she had done it. Because of her identity and her past experiences, she didn't allow her to do such a thing. Today, she just wanted to lure him out. Perhaps someone would ask, wouldn't it be more convenient and faster to get someone to call him? But she had never lowered her voice. Even though she knew that he was angry with her, she couldn't lower herself to compromise with him. So she chose this method. She didn't need to take the initiative to find him, but could also make him appear himself. But at this moment, the ice beauty suddenly thought that if Xiao didn't care about her and didn't care about her matters, he didn't need to care about her life or death. She became a little confused. She didn't know what the meaning of her actions was. For so many years, she had never done such a childish thing. She had always been decisive and rational. Miss Sun, where are you going? The maid's voice sounded anxiously, pulling the ice beauty back to reality. Only then did she realize that she had already walked to the door. Miss Sun, you should stay in the room and wait for second young master Xiao to come back. Otherwise, young master will be anxious if he can't find you when he comes back. The maid saw that she had stopped and immediately said, anxious. Worried about her? Ever since she was young, no one had ever been worried about her other than her parents. The ice beauty narrowed her eyes and said, I want to find him. The maidservant's eyes lit up. Could it be that Miss Sun was enlightened and finally knew how to care for second young master Xiao? She quickly led the way. Miss Sun, this way. Second young master Xiao is in the kitchen. The ice beauty felt that the maid's sudden enthusiasm was a little abnormal, but this was not within the scope of her concern. The two of them turned into the corridor and walked for some distance before they saw the kitchen in the corner of the house. When they arrived at the entrance of the kitchen, the maid asked a chef who walked out, where is second young master Xiao? Second young master, he is brewing medicine in the back. I wonder which lady is so lucky to be able to get second young master to personally serve her. The chef pointed in a direction and said with a smile. The maid smiled and looked at the ice beauty behind her. Then, she led her around the kitchen and walked to the back. When the two of them walked to the corner, the ice beauty inadvertently looked over and happened to see that person squatting on the ground without any care for his image, blowing at a stove. At this time, the sky had gradually darkened and the surroundings seemed to be covered with a layer of black cloth. Only the flickering flames of the stove illuminated that serious, handsome face. This scene was completely different from what she had imagined. She had thought that he was just saying it, and that he would not really help her brew the medicine. Seeing it with her own eyes, she was even more shocked. The ice beauty suddenly did not dare to go forward and disturb him. The maid wanted to call out to him, but the ice beauty immediately raised her hand to stop her and let her leave first. The maid looked at the two of them and laughed mischievously, looking as if she knew what was going on. Then she skipped away. At this time, a chef walked out with a hungry stomach and a toothed club-like thing in his mouth. He walked to Xiao's side and stretched out his neck to look at the stove. Then he laughed heartily and said, Second young master, your skills in brewing medicine are getting better and better. Of course, don't you know who I am? What I learn. The reply was still Xiao's arrogant tone. The ice beauty muttered in her heart. Why is this person's word so annoying? Isn't he afraid that others will look down on him? The chef chuckled, unaffected by his boastful tone. He sincerely raised his thumb and nodded. It's indeed not bad. Oh right, your palm was scalded 2 days ago. Are you all right now? Xiao waved his hand indifferently. It's just a small injury. It's nothing. That chef nodded and taught a few emergency treatment methods for scalded injuries. Then he walked back with a hungry stomach. After a while, A pair of woman's shoes appeared in front of him. Xiao thought it was the maid and said without raising his head, "Wait a little longer. The medicine won't be done so quickly." "It's me." A calm and familiar female voice sounded. Xiao was stunned for a moment before slowly raising his head. White clothes and a beautiful woman looking around. The lights behind her gradually lit up. It was a scene of waning beauty. Nothing could be more beautiful. Fixed in Xiao's eyes, it became the most beautiful scene of his life. Why are you here?" Xiao stood up abruptly and almost tripped over the firewood beside him. Fortunately, he was nimble and didn't let the firewood sweep the stove. The ice beauty stood at the side and watched him tidy up in a flurry. Clumsy. Hearing this, Xiao couldn't help but calm down. He rubbed his forehead. This was how the two of them really got along. He tidied up, patted his hands and straightened his back. He looked at her openly and asked again, "Weren't you in the room? Why did you come over?" The ice beauty said indifferently, "The room was too stuffy, so I took a walk." The first half of the sentence was true, but the second half needed to be scrutinized. Xiao didn't believe that she could casually walk here. This was the most remote place in the residence. Thinking about how she got angry for no reason before, he had some bold guesses. But when he looked at the person in front of him, he didn't believe that she would do such a childish thing. But for some reason, he still felt a little sweet in his heart. The ice beauty didn't know what he was thinking. She only felt that his expression was a little strange. But he often didn't act according to common sense, and she was already used to it. Used to it. When this word flashed in her mind, she couldn't help but be at a loss. Why was she used to someone who had nothing to do with her? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.